some withdrawals because normally you're here and now you're over there.
It's over here, over there, over there, over here.
And over here is over there and over there. Well, it might be soon. You got your drink, girl?
I do.
Quick toast. All right.
Oh my goodness.
All right, for all the people out there, ¿qué es lo que tú dices? It's
Alemana.
I'm DJ Tiguere and
we talk dance.
Hey,
So excited.
I'm excited. Look,
So
for those of you who don't know, We Talk Dance is something that Tanya and I put together to be able to day drink, okay? However, we kind of woke, like half awoke. So we also like to talk about things, dance, and give y'all some things because we want to share back and forth, show you love, and get love from y'all. Am I wrong?
No, it's true. I mean, 1,000% on that drinking. But yes, absolutely. The show we created to talk about our dancing because that's who we are. And then just specifically going into today, this is why I'm so excited about this show, is this is the reason why we have it, is because with everything that's been happening, obviously we're all on social media, we're all stuck at home. So we don't have nothing but time. So with everything that's going on in the world today, as well as within our dance scene, we figured this should be a special edition of We Talk Dance, where we're specifically focusing on a subject. And in this case today, we are addressing the Black experience within the dance scene. We know that obviously the Black experience is a global thing, and especially if we're talking about America, we have that, but we also have a Black experience within the dance scene, as we know the dance scene is a microcosm of what happens on a global scale. So what we want to do is figure out what we can do to work together as a community, make our space safer to have these types of conversations, and then to be more inclusive and diverse, show diversity, right? So that's really what today is about, to have this discussion.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
I'm excited.
Yeah, everybody out there who's watching us, please don't forget to share this with your friends. Let them know what's going down. This is something very, very importante. Leave comments. We're going to be asking questions at the end. You guys are going to have us all to yourself and our panelists to ask all the hard-hitting questions that you want. We ain't scared of you.
And also, we want to point out, this is our first time using interpreters. We heard you. We were reached out to have interpreters available, and we always want to be inclusive. So if you're seeing what you're seeing right now on the screen, please know this is one of our interpreters, Dewan, and then we also have another interpreter, Candace, who will be joining us later. So we have this for you guys. We want everybody to be part of this conversation. So, all right. So let's go ahead and get right into it. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm well ready.
Okay.
Are you ready? Is Dewan ready? Dewan, you ready? Okay.
All right. So let's do this. So on today's show, we're going to meet our guests. We're going to hear about some of their experiences as Black artists, try to identify some things we can do in our community to help and address the recent events that have been going down on social media. So, Rudy, take it away.
Oh, shook it to the shook nook. Our first guest. I'm so excited to be able to introduce our first guest. This queen is a dancer, choreographer, instructor, mom, arts and crafts fanatica, born in Houston. Hey, Houston knows how it goes down. Texas, for those of y'all who don't know where Houston at, get your geography up. She's most known for her presence in the world of Latin dance, particularly bachata, along with her partner, Alex Morel. But she dances it all. Trust me, if you know, you know. Together, they most recently launched the Academic Network of Dance, a pride and hub for their famed pedagogy. She also co-owns the lifestyle brand Hill and Velez with her husband, Ron. Shout out to the king. The gear is fanatical. You got to check it out. See them on the gram. And she has an emoji in her bio. So this is my interpretation of the emoji. Okay? So, Desi, come on in, girl.
Desiree.
What up, Desiree? How you doing?
How you doing?
Is she in the motherland? Where are you at?
I'm just being joyful in my Blackness.
I see you, girl. Well, before we get into this, each one of our panelists has a charity or an organization that they want to bring awareness to, we would love for you to start with that and then take it away and share your experience as a Black person, woman, queen, goddess in the Latin dance scene.
Yes. So hello, everybody. Hello, We Talk Dance. I'm so happy and honored to be here and share my experience with all of you on this amazing platform. So the charity or the organization that I just wanted people to really donate to, because it's all about protecting voting rights, which is really important. I don't know how many of you voted the other day in New York. It's important, and everywhere else. But it's the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. It's a long-standing, here, I'm going to read just something, so I just keep it very what it is. It's a nonprofit organization. It seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminating disparities, and achieving racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. So who doesn't think that's important, right? So yes, that's where I would like for you, I'd invite for you to also donate, as I have done.
Awesome. All right. Talk to us about your Black experience in the Latin dance scene.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So right away, I already know some people are going to be like, oh, well, Desiree, aren't you mixed, this and that? And yeah, but guess what? So is Obama. And no one's out here talking about Obama's mixed. Okay. They're talking about that's our Black president. So that shapes actually a large portion of my Black experience is colorism, a lot. And it also is, I'm from Houston, Texas, like you said, Rudy. It's one drop, because I'm sure not white. So, but anyway, my Black experience, you know what? It's really crazy during this time, and just to be able to really sit down and think about really my Black experience, because on an everyday basis, I mean, like, I feel it. I feel that, that I am a person of color. I definitely feel it during the day and during the night. And, I definitely feel that I'm a person of color and I'm a Black person, but it's crazy to really think how deep and how like self-deprecating some things, and how maybe I haven't even been my authentic self because I'm trying to like please other people, or I've tried to like fit who I am into some kind of box. And yeah.
Can you give us some examples of like, maybe some racial biases or like microaggression, any, things that maybe you've experienced in the scene?
I mean, it's crazy because there's so many, but one that I can and there's so many other women of color and Black women that can, high five me on this, is just hair. That's just like one major thing that might seem not as gripping to some people, but that is one of the microaggressions that, my hair, it grows up, and some other people, their hair grows down. And because my hair is different, it's made to be belittled, or just like aesthetic generally. Generally, a Black person's aesthetic is not perceived to be beautiful, which is it's crazy to even say that out loud. Like, that's like such a reality. And that's one microaggression. But I have family members who have been, going to the larger issue of like people in the streets, my experience with cops, has been crazy. My fear of the police as a person of color is crazy. My experience with teachers growing up, being different or not, or just being like, hey, listen, there is no racism. We don't see color. So just like, we're all even here. And like, so we're like, no, we're not even, because my community's over here struggling. My school system is struggling. My, I don't know why my accent just started.
Thank you, came out.
You better get that drawl on. Let's go.
No, but I mean, I would like to just preface this whole talk. And anytime I talk, it's like, I'm no scholar, right? I'm just a Black woman living in America and feeling things. Right.
Yeah, and that's really why, like, we wanted you, and we're gonna bring on our other two guests here in a little bit, is because it's not because we think and believe and that you guys are the all-knowing of everything, but the thing is, we all have our own experiences, right? Like, even me with myself being half German, half Black, I still have a Black experience. So, and that's really what we want to talk on is we in a dance, especially because of the dancing, is talking to the artists that are in our dancing and everybody understanding that we all have these different experiences. So that's why we brought you guys on. One, we love you guys, but you guys definitely have your own experiences that you bring to the table that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. And also, just like it said in my bio, I have a son, a Black son. And what parent wouldn't be concerned for the future of their child growing up in America right now? I mean, it's scary. It is scary. So, yeah. I mean, all I can do is educate my son to his history, how amazing he is. Try to, and I can't even say that I haven't perpetuated, these stereotypes, or I haven't been racist, and I've like really, with all of the posts and all of the knowledge that's coming at us, which is amazing right now, and the awareness, I'm like just checking myself, like, geez, this is it's so deep.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely want to get into that because we're going to have an educational section coming up. So I definitely want to talk deeper about that, of everything that we can do, what we're doing, and what we can advise people to do as well. Yes.
I have a question. Since I have two queens here, this is an observation that I have made, but obviously I haven't experienced, but maybe you may or may not have as women of color and your Black experience. But I feel like sometimes costumes, depending on your figure, go from being pornographic to being okay. And, I've seen some ladies in a thong, and that's beautiful. And then I've seen some ladies in some booty shorts, and that's, disgusting. Have you guys experienced that? Is that true? Am I bugging? Am I making this up in my mind?
Well, there is always body shaming, but you ain't got to be Black to be body shamed. I mean, that's the to me. But for sure, I could be in some leather pants or just in some shorts next to somebody wearing the same type of shorts, and it's a different thing. But I have a lot to say when it comes down to, and I think I did just post something about this, of the racial overtones. I mean, the racist overtones that exist within the dance community. Because I grew up taking ballet, tap, jazz, modern. I grew up in like the dance studio. I went to middle school, high school, college for dance. And then now, just to really sit in it and realize, wow, I always had to wear pink tights. Wow, I always had issues with my teachers talking to me about like my hair and that it wouldn't fit in the bun, or it's too big, or I was just too different. There's so many underlying things, even just because racism is just like making another group feel inferior, right? It's that I was never taught my history, my dance history, that, Black people are responsible for jazz dance, not Bob Fosse, these kinds of things. I mean, I've taken dance history and I got none of that, right? Yeah. So, and it's also the people that are teaching us. We didn't get any of that.
There's no representation.
Color, yeah. Talking to me about like my experiences and like where I come from and how my communities, really been contributed so much to American culture. And then coming into the Latin dance world, I feel like in some ways was like a token, you know, and I mean, if I'm really just gonna be honest about it, it was like, oh, Desiree, but you have to be mixed with something because you dance too good. You can't just be black.
Yeah, you can't be black and dance Latin.
Yeah, exactly. Or
which is a microaggression. I know.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll definitely unpack some more of that later. Yeah. And I just wanted to be clear. Maybe Desi later on we could talk about it. I think I worded that a little wrong. I didn't mean to imply that only sisters of color are voluptuous, because we got some skinny sisters too. But what I was really looking more for, like, sometimes a black man in a hoodie is perceived one way, and a white man in a hoodie might be perceived one way. A black woman in a thong might be perceived one way versus a white woman in a thong being perceived one way. But
or a black woman who speaks her mind is aggressive and too much and extra, when a white woman could say the same things, and then if they totally wouldn't get that, you know. These are the things that are like, that people just are ignoring, that they don't see, that they're like, there's no race, we're not racist, but you don't see everything you're doing.
It's hard, but that's why we're having these conversations, to point out the little things that people are just maybe oblivious to. You can't see what you can't see. Right? So okay, so let's thank you, Desiree. So let's go ahead and let's bring our next awesome, amazing guest in. I am very honored to bring in our friend Clifton. We have known him for a very long time. For those of you that don't know, Clifton is an international dancer. He's also a singer, songwriter. He's an MC extraordinaire, a realtor, a husband, a father of two gorgeous, when I say gorgeous, they're gorgeous children. He is also the owner and director of Cadence Dance Academy from Toronto, Canada. Please welcome the man with many hats, Mr. Clifton Stennett.
Mi gente, what's good? We in the building.
All right, Clifton, let's take one quick pause. We're going to switch our interpreter real quick. We got to give this brother hands some rest, you know what I mean? Doing it up, you know what I mean?
All right, let's switch it out. We'll get Candace. Thank you. Hello, Candace. All right, so. Okay, so Clifton.
Yes.
Talk.
So guys, first and foremost, I want to thank you all for this opportunity. Island Touch, you stay touching the world. Thank you very much for everything you do and your contribution to mankind. Okay, so I think the first order of operation is for me to holler out and shout out my charity. Yeah. Sure. Okay, so these guys are called Blackstone Foundation Library. They're local here in Toronto, Canada. And I find, especially growing up, the things that they taught us in history in school, nothing was ever there about us. It's as if Black people showed up for slavery, disappeared for the rest of history, and then came back into the present. There was never like, okay, so where do we start? Where do we come from? I had to wait until I finished school to scratch my head and be like, nah, there's got to be more to us. And then I became a huge history buff and found many pieces of information and key pieces of literature that explain our history. So this group, Blackstone Foundation Library, they are a local entity that provides this type of literature and cultural information for the youth. So you can go there, you can be mentored. They teach you how to get jobs, how to organize, how to know about oneself. Because I am a strong believer that if you don't know where you came from, you don't have a clue where you're headed. You won't be able to understand where you're going if you don't understand your past and your history. Yeah, so I want to shout those guys out. Check them out at blackstonefoundationlibrary.org. Okay? Yeah, you got it right down there. Thank you, Rudy.
We on it.
That's the production squad. That's Bianca. You know, she be on it. She be on it.
She got the worst 15 hats.
Nice. So
Clifton, let's talk. Just like we did with Desiree, let's get I mean, particularly, obviously, we asked you guys because you're artists, so we want to try to focus on the dance scene in particular, but that's not to say that we're trying to take away from the experience that you have from the outside, but we want to try to focus on the dance scene. So if you could just, let us know, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but have you yourself had any experiences, Black experiences within the dance scene that maybe people aren't aware of or don't even realizing they're causing that?
Definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, Tanya, have a stopwatch ready? I can go on for a long time. So you need to limit me. Okay. So first and foremost, for me, I find there's a lot of stereotype and expectations from a number of organizers and even attendees of events based on the color of my skin. Now, there might be some correlation between what the expectation is and what I'm good at, but there's also, I feel like, a pressure to act a certain way and do a certain thing that sometimes I just don't feel like doing. Like outside of the job description, if you hire me to teach X amount of workshops, you hire me to perform, you hire me to obviously social dance and be there, be a part of the event. That goes without saying because I'm always out there from start to finish. But now some events want to have some fun and do some extra things in between. And hey, you know what? Clifton's Black. He could run fast. He could jump high. He can do some silly stuff, talk a certain way, act a certain way, flip his hat backwards. You know what I mean? Now, okay, fine. I might look good with my hat backwards. I love my hat backwards. But I want to wear my hat backwards when I want to wear my hat backwards. You know what I'm saying? It's things like that. I got one organizer, names will not be mentioned, but we were booked for the event and they wanted three routines. Cool, no problem. Never asked me. I said, hey, do you want to see the routines that I plan on doing? Nah, you're good to go. All right, go to tech. I do my tech. Come over to me. Hey man, where's the hip hop? Excuse me?
Hold up. I gotta switch to brown liquor now. You're the first person to make me have to. I didn't know it was gonna. Okay, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want you to start drinking out the bottle now.
That's wow. So they said, no, I had you as performing hip hop and teaching hip hop. Slow down. Listen, I can dance to hip hop. I am not a hip hop dancer. Let me just make that very clear to everybody. I will listen to and dance to on my own accord to hip hop. I am not a hip hop choreographer. I'm not a hip hop teacher. Definitely not. Don't ever ask me to teach a hip hop workshop. It won't happen. It'll be the worst workshop you've ever attended. Trust me on this. Okay. But I'm saying, like,
notes.
No, I'm doing salsa, bachata, dancehall. Obviously, I love dancehall. That's my thing. Yeah. But then I get, oh, you dance salsa? You dance bachata?
Oh my God.
Oh, man, really? I've been dancing salsa and bachata before some of you were even born, and that's legit. Like, that's real talk. You know what I mean? Right? That's cha-cha.
Right? Y'all better YouTube that. Sorry. I'm adding those 20 seconds back to your timer. I'm sorry.
Reclaiming my time.
But I feel like as a leader, both in the scene, there are different variations of leaders. You can lead from a school standpoint, like you own a school, and then you have people underneath you. You can lead by running an event. You're an organizer. You're heading up that event. You run the event. Everyone else falls underneath you. You need to set a level of respect, a level of expectations for yourself and your brand and your company that should then trickle down to everyone else underneath you. You understand what I'm saying? Now, within my own organization, within Cadence, Ask My Protein, I'm constantly on them about my history. I'm constantly putting things in their heads, not fables, not stories, but truth. Because I know a lot of them don't understand and don't know the truth, which is fine If you're a non-Black person and you grew up, maybe not around Black people, you don't have Black friends, you went to predominantly all white school or whatever it is, I don't expect you to know everything about my history or what I go through. But what I do expect of you is to understand the difference between right and wrong. Everyone, there's no excuse. If we're all adults here, my son is 9, my daughter's 2, and they can explain to you the difference between right and wrong. Okay, so first and foremost, let's have that level of respect. And if you don't know or don't understand certain things about this Black skin, feel free to ask me. I love to talk. I love to share. I love to educate. So, I mean, I don't want to give away too much right now. I know we got
well, did you have one last example of, something that maybe someone who doesn't share that skin tone wouldn't relate to, that's happened to you in the dance scene, that they'd be like, what? Because we're getting a lot of people like, oh my God, I can't believe they asked them about the hop to the hip.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh man, I feel like if I air out directly.
No names. No names. Let's stay away from the names.
Don't get in your feelings now.
Let me. Yeah, and I'm sifting too. So I got
the Kraken will release it all. It'll get it all out.
Release the Kraken. You know what I mean? But there have been multiple times where, you know what, the event might not be running as smoothly as people may have thought it would have. There might have been times where people we need to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Can you do, you being me, can you do X? Now, X, I won't say exactly what X was, but let's just say that X, they felt that X can only be accomplished by me because of my Black skin and physical stature. Okay? Now, ever since I vowed to myself, ever since I had my son 9 years ago, I said, I refuse to do anything that someone will record, see, and post out to the public that people, his friends or peers, can go back and say, your dad is a jackass. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So don't hire me. If I get there and I don't do it, send me back home. It's all. I just refuse.
Fair
Yes.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, I do be asking Clifton to take a shirt off for the ladies, but I don't know if that counts. That's just.
You
Right. You can do it now if you want.
he just ripped. I mean, I don't know if that counts, but I'm sorry if it was me you're talking about.
You and I good. You and I good. We good, baby. We good.
I'm sorry. All right.
You good.
Woo! All right, let's go to our third and final finalista. Thank you so much, Clifton. All right, this brother is an Afro-Latin dance instructor from Nowlands, Louisiana, where the food is good and the hot sauce is hot. He's the founder of Tropic Vibe Dance Company. He's known for his most versatility within multiple styles of bachata and salsa. He is 50% of Dejan and Chloe. Welcome to the show, Dejan Polanski.
Yes.
How you doing?
David, Papa, what's good? How's everybody?
How are you?
How's everybody? Yes.
What you drinking? Show us what you're drinking.
Ya tú sabes, mi gente.
Salud, my brother.
Salud.
Right out the bottle. Oh God, guys.
It's gonna be one of those days, Tanya. For those of you guys who've just joined us, we still haven't gotten to your questions, to the stuff of we in for the long haul. Don't go nowhere. You might need some drink too. Get some brown liquor. All right, Dejan, talk to us. What is the charity that you want to bring some eyes to? Let us know.
I'm gonna switch it up a little bit actually here, and I'm gonna go with St. Jude Hospital. Okay, St. Jude is a children's hospital in local New Orleans, Louisiana, who helped me out and my family out through a lot of crises throughout the times during my life when I was really young. So I really wanted to just shout them out. They are 100%. They're just amazing, an amazing organization. So I wanted to donate. Go make sure you donate some money to St. Jude Hospital, guys. Thank you so much.
Now, before we turn your clock on, because you're being a little humble with your bio, but aren't you military person? Have you not served? Have you not been there for the red, white, and blue? I'm just asking.
Yes,
Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a rumor.
Yes, sir.
I've seen some pictures with where your arms are like real big and you're holding like missiles or something. I don't know. Talk to us, brother.
Well, just to give you a little bit of background, yes, I served in the United States Air Force for 6 years. I was involved in a bunch of different things, very, very deep within that. And I got out. Actually, I got out for dance and then a few other reasons. But I got out. I was dancing while in the military as a reservist, pretty much. And then my second, half of my enlistment as a reservist. And then I went into, going into just going hard with dance. So, now I'm here in terms of that. And I've done a lot of things in my life, a lot of different jobs and occupations. I've been a chef in restaurants, a lot of local New Orleans restaurants. So if you know, all right. So
thank you for that, brother. Thank you for that. Talk to us about your experience as a Black man in the Latin dance scene. Spill the dirt.
Man,
no names.
All right.
But
this can get real. And the reason why this can get so real is because first off, I'm from New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. So Louisiana, obviously, as you know, southern part of the United States. It is the South is a different type of racist, in terms of understanding that, there's a lot of slave plantations, let's say a few miles from my house, where you can still go and tour those slave plantations and see the shackles on the walls.
So what you're saying is the North got that sensual racism, and the South got that traditional racism. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, you know what?
It's different.
Yeah, and the reason why, it depends on what part of the United States that you're in terms of racism. This is something that I really, really, really have paid a lot of close attention to throughout my childhood because of where I'm from and having the opportunity to travel, which a lot of people from here, a lot of my friends just have never left this city. So just paying attention to that and seeing how the world has been through the military, through dance, has given me a very great understanding of what the racism is like geographically in the United States. So the southern part of the country, extremely they'll let you know they're racist, and we're out in the open, about it. The North has everything in the North is a little bit more progressive in terms of everything, even education. And obviously, if you're racist, you're probably uneducated, or ignorant in some form. But the North is a little bit more progressive in thinking. They don't even know. A lot of people don't even know that you can be Black and Latino here. They don't understand that concept. In the North, in New York, you people understand that. And even on the West Coast, and like Cali, where a lot of things are extremely superficial because of the Hollywood thing, you know how that goes. But in terms of the racism, it's a different type of racism that you experience because they're educated people. Down here is just different. I would say going east, it's a little bit closer to us than New York and then the West Coast. In terms of my experience with racism in the dance scene, I will say this. The dance scene is one of the only places that I've ever been, the dance scene, where people, where actually specifically me, I have not experienced extreme racism in the dance scene, how I've experienced it outside of the dance scene. However, I have experienced it and I've seen it in other people experiencing it. And I've also seen the shift of how I was treated as just a Black guy before you even know that I have any Dominican lineage. And then while I'm in a student standpoint or from a student perspective, or just going to congresses and traveling and just learning. And then when I actually, started to become and grow into being a teacher, being a performer, becoming an artist, becoming a creator. So all of those things changed in terms of how I was viewed and how people treat
hold on. Let me see if I understood that correctly. Are you saying you walk into the class, they see you, oh, that's a black man. We're gonna teach you the 1, 2, 3, and then they hear you Dominican, they're like, oh, hit me with the thing con king. Is that
Definitely, I will say that. And the thing is, the thing that you have to understand from me, man, is I usually, I go. People ask me what I am. I tell them I'm black, and if it's in the Latin dance scene, sometimes, and I am. I was raised with my mom's side of the family. My mother is black, straight up, and and there was a big even disconnect with my entire family and my childhood in general. So I didn't really grow up in either household for a majority of my childhood and growing up, but I always just identify as black, and that's what I identify as now. And I will say that sometimes when you're talking to people or when you walk up, and every black person has experienced this, including Alemana, Clifton, Desiree, oh man, you must be Cuban, you must be Dominican, you must be this, and trying to guess. Oh yeah, I knew you couldn't just be black. What you mean? So in terms of that understanding, that's honestly, there's people that have made paved the way for me to be here and experience the success that I'm experiencing right now. Before me, you have the Shaka Browns, you have the Gordon Neals, you have the incredible, the Leon Roses, you have all of these guys that are black, and I think African and all kinds of different, but they're black, that had to go through some of the things and the Mark Brewers that I didn't have to go through and pave that way, because I talk to the old cats and the old school cats, and I see what they had to go through in order to be here. For me in the Latin dance scene, the biggest thing that I see is black women being put on just black women in general being put almost on the back burner, and then black women are being traumatized in a sense. And there's no reason why I should walk up to you in a dance, or like sometimes I walk around, and this is one of the things that happened to me. And like Desiree said, she was like, well, I am even guilty of doing it. Mm-hmm. When I came into the dance scene, I came into the raw club Latin dance scene. I was a street dancer all my life. When I got into going to clubs and everything, even myself, even my own ideology, without realizing it, I was favoring all of the lighter skinned female dancers that were a little, on the slim side, and they just look almost like a different type of Latina. Now, versus, an Afro Latina or a black girl, and someone brought it up to me. And I was dancing rueda. I was dancing Cuban style in casino when I first started. And in one of those classes, I was one of the only negritos in there. And I walked in, and there was another black lady. And I after the class, we were dancing and practicing. And I walked up to this girl, I'm dancing with this girl. And she asked me, you walked up to 6 girls in here, and I've been talking to you all class. Why haven't you asked me to dance? And in my mind, I was like, wow, I realized that. And I was like, man, this is my sister, just like everybody else of any color is. And I really discriminated against her. And I had to check myself and say, wow, I really did that. And I was literally like 19 years old at that time, 20 years old, something like that. I was like 19. And I was like, wow. And that made me think. And I started to pay attention to it even more in the dance scene. So now when I talk to all of the ladies that I've talked to over these last 6-7 days with all of this stuff going on, it's been mostly women that have been reaching out to me to talk to me about certain things, right? So these women are giving me their views, and I'm seeing it, and I'm realizing it every event I'm at. And these girls are, you wonder why there's not too many African-American girls in the United States Latin dance scene. Why is that? I know Bianca Chapman. I know, there were a lot before us, specifically Leah Patterson. I know Alemana, I know who else? Carmen. We all know Carmen. All of these people before us, there's so many that could keep going on, but I don't see any of that at the top. I don't see any of that. And I've seen some incredible stuff by looking back in my past. And I'm like, wow, what happened to the point where these people or these women, because already harder on women in general in our Latin dance scene, what is happening there? And why is that? And that's something that I see. So every event that I'm at personally, when I don't have, or I walk in somewhere and I don't have, you know, a line to dance or anything, or anybody waiting to dance or asking me to dance, then I make it a point to walk around and find that maybe that African American girl, or that girl that just isn't dancing. It doesn't matter what color she is, but they end up usually being Black on the other side of the room, traumatized. And then when I walk up, they're like, "Oh no, I wasn't asking you to dance." I'm like, "No, sweetheart, no, I want to dance with you." Like, and they don't even understand it. Like, they're traumatized. It's so deep how crazy that goes. And you even look at it in the commercial scene. You know, I've experienced it in the commercial scene, like doing commercials with people and doing like extra work in New Orleans. You know, I've seen it, the colorism and the racism in the commercial dance scene as well. You know, and it's even crazier over there. But in terms of our dance scene, I want to thank all of the people and all of the organizers that do not discriminate and that have made, you know, ways for me and other Black dancers to, they don't even see, you know, they're not discriminating. I've had a lot of amazing support, and I thank those organizers that aren't discriminating. Then I also thank all of the Black artists before me that made a platform and gave me a road in order to, you know, a guideline to get off the sidelines, if you will.
Damn.
Woo!
Oh my God.
I'm gonna drink to that one.
Yeah,
that was heavy.
That's
heavy.
that's a lot, sir.
Listen. I'm telling you right now, like, it's so deep, and it's very hard. Especially a lot of my friends from Europe, and a lot of them are reaching out and they're saying, "Man, we don't understand what's all this about. What we really don't understand." I will speak to my European friends and organizers and everybody all over the world, because the racism in America is very, very different. You have to really look at our timeline of when we ended segregation. Some of you haven't experienced segregation at all in Europe, and if you have, it was against Jewish people. So it's not something that we just finished with segregation in the 60s, 1960s. That was 60 years ago. You know, we have slavery for 400 years up until the 1800s, and then we have segregation. You have people that served in the military like me and came back from World War II, and the white people that came back from World War II received land, received grants, money, and their GI Bill to go to college. You know what the Black people that were trying to make a better life for themselves by serving for their country came back to? None of it. It was mandated that we couldn't get any of those things. So when you think about how far we're pushed back and the overall understanding of where racism comes from in America, and the videos that you're seeing of people getting killed in 4K video, and the innocent Black people that you're seeing, and this has been happening, we just have media now to prove it, and proof is in the pudding. And I'm gonna say that later too. But for this, you know, you can't really argue with that. In terms of just understanding, you really have to just do your research, and it's very hard because I've been to Europe, I've danced in Europe, I don't experience the same type of racism or anything there that I experience here in general walking around.
Yeah.
But,
So
you know,
thank you so much, Dejan. I don't want to cut you off there, but I think that's a good segue for where we're going next. Because we now need to talk about, all right, so how do we do this? Tanya, take it away. Let them know.
All right, so guys, first of all, just everybody involved, this is just a lot of awesome information. It's very, very deep, and I'm just so glad that we're having this conversation. And I'm so glad that other people are going to be having more of these conversations. But to move not on, but to move forward, as far as the scene is concerned, because obviously we've noted that there is some form of racism to some degree in our dance scene. Whether we're talking about the Latin dance scene, hip hop, doesn't matter, it's there. So what can we do to make it better? And the first thing that I want to talk about is, number one, education. We are living in an amazing technological age that there is zero excuse to not know about something.
How many excuses do they get, Tanya?
Zero. No excuses. You've got a phone. Go on Google, type in the information that you want to know, and read and learn. Read the books. I think Clifton had mentioned it, is that it's sad, and it doesn't just happen in Canada. It obviously happens in America. We as Black Americans are not taught our own history. We are taught the Civil War, and we're taught very shortly about slavery. And Martin Luther King. That's really all they teach in school. That's all I remember that was taught. I didn't hear about Little Rock Nine, all that other stuff. So it's really about education. And now that we're adults, you want to learn about it? Go online. There's zero excuse. And one thing I do want to point out is for those that are not people of color, it is not fair for you to expect a person of color to teach you. I'm just going to say that, and then we can move forward. It is your responsibility to educate yourself.
Say that for the people in the back, Tanya. I don't know if they heard you in the back.
Do not expect a person of color, African, Latin, otherwise, doesn't matter, to educate you. It is your responsibility to get that education. Now that that's said, how can we get better? The one thing I will educate you on right now is just definitions, right? So we've had, and given current events online, we've had the racism remarks thrown around and prejudice and things like that. So I think it's really important to also understand wording, context, and especially the definition of words. So what I found on Google, guys, as far as definitions, so prejudices are under the racist umbrella, but being prejudiced can be positive or negative in nature and does not always solely have to be based on race. So that's one of the definitions for prejudice. If you want to check that out, go ahead and go on Google right now, check that out. The next part, the definition of what is racism. Racism is the preconceived notion that a certain racial group is superior to another and causes an unequal distribution of power based on race. An example, Jim Crow laws that we had in America, the segregation of public schools, segregation of public places, whites only, coloreds. That's what racism is, definition-wise. Then the next thing that was actually brought up from Desiree, I think all of our artists, was colorism. So colorism, I couldn't find an actual definition of colorism, but what I did find was that there's no official definition, but there's a woman called Alice Walker who is most often accredited for first using the word out loud and in print. And she describes it as prejudicial or preferential treatment of same race people based solely on their color. So an example would be when you have slavery and you had the darker skinned slaves outside and you had people that were lighter skinned, myself, due to usually the slave woman being raped by her master. That's how we came into the picture. I would have been a house slave. So there's the colorism, right? So that would be a very quick and easy example to see the difference. As far as, besides the racism that was clearly involved, there was also colorism. And unfortunately, with something like that, a person like me during that time would feel like, well, yeah, obviously I am better because I am lighter. I'm closer to white. That's where the colorism comes in. So you can have colorism within your own race. So those are the definitions. And then, so I think what I want to do, Rudy, did you want to go into the next part, or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring the queen back. I know she's waiting. I know she got the fans. She's ready to rock and roll. I want to hear what she got to say about all these things you just educated us on. Let's bring Desi back into the building. Where's she at? Houston, Jersey, stand up.
Y'all over here getting me hot. I want to, you know, I was first, so I had to get my
Y'all better strap yourself in. It's about to go down. We added 2 extra minutes to your slot now, girl.
So yeah, so Desiree, so based off of like the definitions, and obviously, how do you feel as far as the educational part, what we can do to get better?
I mean, I think that is it. Educate yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. How about that one? And listen, I'm over here educating me and mines. A is for activist. Okay. We're different. We're the same. Cool cuts, little legends, exceptional men in Black history. I mean, it starts here, right? And then it goes to my students and my friends and whoever I come in contact with. Just even like chopping and debunking the myth that, you know, this certain European dance style of ballet is the forefront of all dance. And to be able, I talked about this before, and Rudy, you were co-signing on it. When people ask me, oh, like, I want to be a better dancer. I want to be a bachata dancer, a really good one that's traveling all over. Do I need to take ballet classes? And I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? Dance bachata or ballet? I mean, like, what is
They're very different styles.
Very different styles. And I get, of course, that right now, you know, we're mixing everything together and we got the fusion stuff going on, and that's great. But like, people having like the position that ballet is superior to African-based dances, that kind of mentality, I think like that's easy to start to, not easy, it's not easy. It's, we can all be aware of it, right? Be aware of the language that we use, and try to be more sensitive, right? To that, and just a couple.
Hey, can you give us some examples?
Yeah.
Of people being unsensitive when maybe they should have been sensitive.
Oh my gosh, there's so many examples. But before I say that, there was a couple that I just wanted to read off, because then it's like it just goes so far deep, and then it also goes into like dance competitions where we have the category of technique, but then it's like, well, what technique? What is this dance competition? Is this ballet dance competition, or is this salsa or bachata or an Afro Latin based dance competition? I mean, that's how rooted it is in this, you know what I'm saying? So we're looking at people, and we're looking at here, hold on, we go. Valuing lines over rhythm, poise over grit, you know what I'm saying? And so how much of that has been, quote unquote, our dance been whitewashed?
Yeah.
You know, that we have to now look a certain kind of way because you said we got to look a certain kind of way, but the dance came from over here.
Yeah.
The dance came from over here. Where did the polyrhythms come from? Where did the undulations come from? But now you all of a sudden, you at the Fred Astaire dance school, and you just want to go dun, 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 dun. Or the teachers are like, hey, you know, yeah, we're just not gonna play traditional or Dominican style, whatever you want to call it, right? Because that's the whole thing. We're not gonna play that music because it's just too hard for them to understand, or it's like it's too complicated, or we're not gonna teach body movement because it's too much. That's the dance.
I told you y'all wasn't ready. I told you. You don't listen to me. Well, that's on you now.
It's so much.
You keep hitting, go. Don't stop.
You know, yeah, and it's just more of that. The hierarchy, yes, Africa, hello, we all come from Africa. And if you do that, what would you think, right? Yeah, so I would like for us, especially, like I said, check yourself, wreck yourself, personal accountability. First I need to educate myself. Then maybe I need to just take a look around and just do some evaluations. Have I contributed to this? Have I added to somebody's demise or their, you know, just chopping them to making them feel inferior any kind of way? Because that's never been my intention. Right? I'm not a mean person. I'm not a racist, right? But you might be doing some things that are kind of racist, right? And that's just what it is. And it, like I said, it's deep seated. And if we as instructors can be the kind of change that we want to see out in the world, I think that our students will start to follow suit if they educate themselves, right? And then also with the promoters need to educate themselves. I could just go.
No, you better say it. You gotta say it.
No,
You
but
started.
that's just really what it is. It's like not, and I'm not the best person, like I said, the most scholarly person to talk about this, because I know so many other people who are really just like know so much about the lineage and the movements and where, ethnicology and everything. But it all comes from somewhere. And if you're eliminating where it comes from, I think you're going to talk about this too, cultural appropriation, Tanya, just to not know where something comes from. And then again, that's what Clifton was talking about with knowing your history. But if you don't know the history, and if the teachers aren't teaching the history, and you don't know that this is an Afro Latin dance, then what are you going to think? You're going to keep doing the same thing, keep thinking the same thing until, hopefully you get educated, or if not, you check yourself and educate yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Desiree.
The one thing I will want to take away for whoever's watching, okay, that is a dance competitor or has a dance competition, let's look and circle back to that technique category, if there's any takeaway from my little part, so we can really see how much of what is what.
Okay, how much of this? How much of this is in your technique, player? Where that at in the fucking technique section?
It's supposed to be like this, right? That's so sorry.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying when I took the class, they didn't tell me about looking for this swag right here, even though the whole thing is Afro. Anyways, I do want to say, first of all, oh my God, this is why she is here, because it's just truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb. Speaking about educating yourselves, I was speaking with a friend, because the word privilege, so a lot of people be getting in their feelings when you say, you got privilege.
Yeah.
And I, my daddy black, my granddaddy black, but I'm not black. This is not black. This is, I don't know what this is, but it's not black. And so I'm privileged as Rudy Lopez. When I go to the airport or when we get pulled over, Dejan got to jump in the passenger seat and I got to jump in the driver's seat, because they going to treat us differently. And that shit hurts, but it's real. So just because your daddy black don't mean you might not have privilege. And we got to understand that.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go, girl.
Just because you're black does not mean that you're not a self-deprecating Uncle Tom.
Oh,
and
God.
There's that too. So
well, make me name some YouTube channels. I'm already in my feelings. Hold on.
Listen, it's a lot of spectrum, and that's why it's so much, because there's not one type of black person.
Yeah. But real talk. I respect to Edwin. I get it. One drop. But when it comes to privilege, I really am. And I think a lot of people need to understand that, whether it be because I have connection with my dad. I have my dad there. That's a part of privilege that a lot of people of color don't have. So educate your ass on some privilege, check yours, and use whatever privilege you have to help others, which is what we're trying to do, right, Tanya? That's what we're here for. That's what we're all about.
I think the biggest thing, just talking on privilege, I feel a lot of people think that privilege is a bad word or a negative word, because when they hear it, they automatically shut down and they go to a negative space. And it's not a matter of shitting on the person by saying, I have privilege. I'm lighter skinned black. I have not, in the dance scene, experienced the types of racism that maybe some of my brothers and sisters have, because one, I'm lighter, and two, I'm a bigger name artist. That's another form of privilege. That doesn't mean it's a bad word. It's just I have to now be aware of my privilege and check myself. And I have done that in the past, where I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I don't have to deal with that because I'm like this. And it's not a bad word. It's just a matter of acknowledging that it's there. That's the first step. You got to acknowledge that it's there, because it's there. You can't, no matter how many times you say, oh no, I don't see it, I don't see my privilege, it's still there.
That's privilege to be able to say, I don't see my privilege.
Exactly. And the last thing we're going to say on that, before we go on to our next brother is this right here. This for all the fellas in the building. You could be the blackest black on black, but if you a man, you still privileged on this planet because women have been going through it. But we're going to save that for another time. We're going to have another talk on that. Desi, thank you so much. We're going to take it to the north.
Yup. And we're back.
I think, do we need to do a switch?
Wait a minute. Hold on.
We're gonna do a quick ASL switch.
Okay, do the ASL switch.
Thank you,
until we get that. Hold on.
Self-centered.
Are you flexing on us with a champion? Hold up. What is your
I mean, I had to put a hat on him. The man of many hats was the closest one to me.
Was it the closest one?
The closest one to me at the time.
Really, Canada? Really?
Put it on. Yeah, represent.
That's mean. That's mean. But go ahead, brother. It's fine. We're gonna let it rock.
Yes. Well, before I dive in, I wanted to, unless there's something y'all want to talk about or ask.
No, this is
No. I just wanted. I didn't know if you remembered what we were talking about.
Oh,
just to make sure.
I'm on it.
Okay,
So,
cool.
He's only half a bottle of cracking in, Tanya.
Yeah.
A whole bottle. He'll be good.
Slow sipping. So to echo my brother Dejan, yes, just to bring that back up real quick, the Black women do not get enough visibility within our scene. They do not get enough attention, and that's not only from white people, that's from Black people, that's from people like me as well, because I've heard it as well. I'm part of a Facebook group. I'm not even sure who organized it, but a lot of us are in it, called the Black of the Berry. Okay, and it's with all the Black dancers in the scene, and I'm hearing this trend a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's one that's definitely interesting and on the same page alarming at the same time, right? So I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I'm gonna put it to my man Rudy, because he is solution-oriented young man.
All
I heard was young man. Bianca, did you hear that? Okay, thank you.
Right. So I would like there to be, and this is gonna be a good segue to the rest of my topic. I would like there to be some form of initiative or workshop or some kind of gathering within the congresses, within the festivals. And I mean, your event could be the one to kick it off, right? Where we discuss not only, matters of race and prejudice and stuff like that, but I think a key one is how do we give and shine more light on the sisters within the scene? Because without the sisters, you can't have the misters. And without them, there's no history. You don't have any dance. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And Clifton, the Rona hit us, but thanks to Tanya at CSBF, we were gonna have our next We Talk Dance town hall, and that's definitely a priority for us. We did one in Tampa, TSBF, where we talked about just women in general, but we definitely want to include that. So thank you for bringing that to light.
No problem.
Josh City 2021.
That's right. That's right. It's a write-off. Okay, again, so let's talk about solutions. How do we again, I know we said it multiple times, but I'm a strong believer in educating, and educating oneself. Research is key, knowledge is power, and you need to make sure that you're looking at the correct things. So, like to Tanya's point, you shouldn't feel like, don't expect a Black person or, an Afro-Latin person to educate you on the subject. However, I'm gonna give you a head start. So if you have a pen or a pencil or a phone, record this. I'm gonna mention a few key things that you can search up that will help you on your way to understanding. Okay? Because
now, guys. Now you can listen to this. This is your education.
Okay? Because one of my biggest pet peeves is that when something happens and we get so angry about it as Black people are like, what are you so angry about? Really? Like, get over it. Like, come on, like enough of this Black Lives Matter now. Listen, it's better you write this stuff down before you catch something else. You don't want the hands. You know what I mean? You don't want someone to get that upset with you. Okay, so do your due diligence and research. Couple things to look at. Okay, why slavery happened. You can literally type it into a search engine and find out why, but I'm gonna give you a head start. Look up the industrial era in Europe. Okay, the industrial era in Europe. I need you to look up things like the Berlin Conference. Okay, 1884 Berlin Conference. Okay, I want you to look up imperialism. Look up what imperialism is. Okay, look up things like the scramble for Africa. This is why so many of you can actually dance salsa right now. Okay, so for you not to pay homage to those who created it or totally disregard them as human beings, it makes no sense to me. But look up the scramble for Africa. Look up, as Tanya mentioned, Jim Crow laws. Okay, look up Black Code. Okay, look up, and these are all older stuff. This is history right here. If you sit down, I'm gonna give you guys a month. If you sit down for a month, off and on your own time, and research these things, if you still come to me and tell me you still don't get it, then there's no hope for you. I'm sorry. There's no hope. If you are a strong believer, if you feel like within yourself you are a sincere individual, if you feel like within yourself you understand the difference between right and wrong, if you then go and research these things and you still either don't get it or don't agree with why some of us are so angry right now, then I got nothing else for you. I can't help you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, just going off of that, is at least understanding. I don't like the term agree to disagree, especially when it comes to something like this. There should be no disagreement. That's number one. But whatever. But at least the understanding of knowing where someone is coming from, that's the number one thing. We have to learn how to understand. First of all, we got to learn how to listen. There's a lot of talkers. A lot of people love to talk and they don't like to listen. Agreed. You got to listen, especially if you are not a person of color. Listen to a person of color. How are you going to tell me how I am feeling and what I have the right to feel? So I think just going off of that, it's the understanding. We have to understand each other. We don't have to agree. That's fine. But we need to learn how to understand each other.
Right. And a way that, just bringing it back to We Talk Dance and within our community, to tie it all together, if we can then, like, you know how Tito does his history of salsa seminars, and everywhere I'm at and he does it, I've seen it like 10 times because I just love it. You know, I'm a history guy. Maybe we could do something along the scale of Black Afro, our contribution to the scene. I don't know, just thinking out loud here. It might be a way to kind of ease people into the topic. You know what I mean? A way to kind of cast a wider net and get a larger audience under the same roof at the same time. You know what I mean? I know for myself, I'd be extremely appreciative of that, and I would support anyone who wanted to, you know, to put something like that forward. Go ahead, sir. You in the front row.
I would like to ask my colleague, the Lamanja.
Yes, sir.
If it's okay with her, but since Mr. Stennon is going to be in Chicago, Salsa Bachata Festival 2021, maybe we can add that to our We Talk Dance for Shaw City, Alemana, if you're okay with that.
I love it. Let's do it. Clifton, if you're down.
Right. Holla at your boy. We'll put it together.
100.
Or educational time. I'm all about that.
Yes. And if I could add one other thing. For those of you who know me, I am a happily proud married man. I am in an interracial relationship. I have mixed children. Okay. And again, I get smoked not only from the white side, but from the Black side sometimes too. oh, you preach all this Black Lives Matter and this and that and the third, but you're married to a white woman. Complex, huh? So was Frederick Douglass. That's another person you should look up. Before his death, he was married to a white woman. But that's neither here nor there. I will love whoever I want to love. My love has no color. But let me tell you this much. My color is love. Remember that. So I will stand for this regardless of who I stand beside. You see what I'm saying? And my son, it's going to be interesting when they grow up, because my son, if you look at him at a quick glance, he might look more like a white child. My daughter, if you look at her glance, she looks more like a black child. She looks like Alemana. See, right? So where I make sure I preach, literally preach. I give him as much exposure to the information that I find. I give him exposure to everything, to everything, to everything, to everything. When the George Floyd video came out, I didn't show him the ending of it, but I showed him the beginning, okay? With the police officer's knee on his neck. And I explained to him what was happening. And then before he took his last breath, I turned it off. My son is 9. My son looked at me and said, tears running down his face, Daddy, why are people so mean? Why are people so mean? You know what I'm saying? So education, big up Desiree on the books that you're teaching your kids and reading to them now. I have the same books at my house. It's important. It starts at home. If your child, if you're in my age group, you have a child under the age of 4 or 5. If your child grows up, I'm telling you right now, call me 50 years from now, whatever, I'm gonna say it. If your child grows up to be a racist, I blame you. I'm telling you right now, I blame you. Because if my child is one, I blame myself.
On that note, we're gonna have to switch it up.
This is heavy.
The thing we're allowed to agree to disagree on is whether we got to put mayonnaise on everything. What the fuck? Everybody always put mayonnaise. I'm not a mayonnaise guy. Can we gotta put mayonnaise? We could agree to disagree on that. You know what I mean? But racism, no. We will not agree to disagree on that.
Right.
My brother. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right.
you, Clifton.
Let's hand it over. We're going to Nola. Nowlands. We've been drinking a little bit of brown liquor up in here. Y'all better we haven't even gotten started. For those of you who just joined us, thank you so much. We're going to take your questions. And after this segment, we're going to current events, AKA tea time.
Yeah. And to a certain degree, right? Like, don't already start getting your.
We're not ratchet. We're not ratchet. No, we're not ratchet. But we're going to talk about it, though. So stick around. Tanya, who's up next? Bring it on.
Next up, we have, of course, we're bringing back Dijon. Speaking on the same topic on what we can do to make a change. Obviously, I gave you guys the education as far as some of the definitions. You just heard from Clifton. Material. He literally gave you material to go back and find and read and watch. There is no excuse at this point. We are giving you everything that you need to know, plus more, to educate yourself, to become a better human being, more empathetic and understanding. So, Dijon, what you got? What is it that the dancing in particular, you know, I know obviously this race, the racial topic is global and it's always going to overflow into our everyday life, but specifically, what can we do in the dancing to help with all of the issues that we've talked about so far?
Well, I would say first, like you guys said, I'll go back to education, man. I've had so many people, you know, and there's a lot of people, our fan base is wide, diverse, and all kinds of stuff. So I'm also friends with a lot of different races and all of that stuff, same exact, you know. So I've gotten a lot of calls from some of my like really close friends in the dance scene from other places, and that were asking me, you know, so what's going on? Like, I care about you, and I never had to deal with this. I've never seen it, I've never felt it. I don't know. From white, especially a lot of white people that are my friends, and a lot of people from outside of the United States. So I've ended up talking to so many people. This last over the last 2 months has been like me talking to people for hours on the phone all of my friends and anybody that are fans or anybody that, you know, students, whatever, that wants to educate themselves. And like you guys said, that's the first step. It's the first step, trying to understand, even if you don't understand at all, if you don't feel it, if you never saw it, just you caring about one of your friends who is a person of color and that individual, and you trusting that person's judgment and knowing them to say, man, this is not like my friend. Why is my friend going crazy? Why are they going to all of these protests? Why is my friend, you know, their whole narrative on their Facebook page has changed to all Black Lives Matter and nothing else? Like, why is that happening? That's strange. Well, it's because that they feel it, and these friends or allies, they care about anybody. They don't just turn their head and deflect it and say, well, all lives matter, when, you know, we know what that means already. You know, if you say all lives matter, we know that equality is a thing. We know that off the bat. We mean we're not fighting against a certain race or against anyone. All people are equal. But if I go to, I'm going to use this analogy that everybody's been using. If I call the fire department.
Hold on one second, Dijon. Sorry. It looks like we lost our interpreter.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry.
So I'm going to use that. She's gone again.
One moment, please.
Because we definitely want to include as many people as we can.
Yeah, of course. I totally understand.
We might have to switch over to day one.
My first day on the job, Dijon, and I'm drinking on the job, so you already know what it is.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Hold on.
Sorry. You were right in the middle of a thought.
We lost. You know what? Let's give her 30 more seconds. Maybe she got disconnected, and then if not, we'll continue. Okay, there she is.
I thought
no,
my team
thank
was
you.
Pop up. I'm sorry.
No worries.
No, it's all good.
Worries.
Thank you for being here. All right. So keep it going.
You know, using an analogy for the All Lives Matter situation and just educating people on that, that are in the dance scene that continue to use that, especially people on the outside of the country that don't understand what's going in, because we all really mean everybody. We want equality, right. But going into using the analogy that everybody's been using, if I call the fire department because my house is on fire, something's wrong with my house, it's burning to the ground, and then they start to spray every house around my house and not my house, they're not getting rid of the problem. So Black Lives Matter just means that we actually matter. All right. And matter, just mattering, is like the bottom of the bottom. Well, we're not even saying Black lives are equal. We're saying we just matter. Stop killing us in the street on 4K video in the US. That's all. Stop hanging us from trees and saying it's suicide. That's all. You know, stop coming into my house when myself, I'm 16 years old and sticking a shotgun into my mouth and almost knocking my teeth out while I'm screaming, I'm on the honor roll, and then saying and kicking me as a 16-year-old boy that's doing nothing to you. You know what I mean? And then not having a warrant. Stop pulling me out of my car, then following me home and searching my entire house, which Chloe can attest to because she was there, without a warrant for no reason and nothing. All right, that's all we want. Stop. I literally fear for my life here. I would go somewhere else, or go to Canada or Europe or Trinidad and just hang out, and I don't feel the same type of racism, even though it exists everywhere. Right. So in terms of your friends and educating your friends when they call you or when they actually listen to you, when you ask them a question and you ask them why they have a certain view, and then you educate them, or you take that approach to educating them and not dismissing them in any form of way, it will help out a lot. And that's one of the things that's been contributing to so many allies around the world educating themselves and understanding the truth of what's really going on in the US that is hurting their friends. It's just basic understanding, and once you're educated. But if you don't understand, don't take a certain narrative and then jump to a conclusion just because it's not happening to you. You know, care about your friends, and I'm sure all of us have a Black friend or a friend of color that lives in the U.S. that is being affected by it, because not all Black people are affected by this. By the way, not all Black people feel this, depending on your status or your where you are or your progressive geographical location in America, or how great your parents did on keeping you away or putting you in the private schools that are 10 times better than the public schools that I went to, and you know what I mean? And try to really understand what they're going through, because it gets so deep. Education. Pregunta.
My brother, we're going to just take a half a second pause to let our ASL people switch real quick, because you was getting real. Everybody was in their feelings. It was a lot. It was a lot. Brown liquor salute to you, player. You know, I'm going to pause your time.
Perfect. Thank you. Perfect.
Just real quick, because earlier we were talking about the Black experience and in Latin dance scene. I don't think people realize that brothers like you, when you got to get to a Congress, you got to experience this whole racism in the traveling process, and you getting checked on your way to the airport, on the way back from the airport, checking into the hotel where you at. People don't understand that. So respect and keep it going, brother. We back. Let's go.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, the overall, like I said, education, and then understanding this also within that education, understanding that, first off, I am I'm the first person in my family to graduate high school, period. All right.
Wow.
And that is, and that's not me making excuses. I come from the gutter. I come from the hood. I come from knocking on people's door, asking for syrup sandwiches. Like, that's where I come from. You dig? So at the end of the day, you know, me making it and getting to not only passing high school, going to college, going to the military, becoming a successful dancer, you know, and a successful business person, an event planner, an event organizer, you know, within my spectrum. I'm on the other side of that looking back. So this is not somebody just making excuses for why they're not in a certain place or trying to find a reason to make an excuse. Nah, I know both sides. I'm the only Black person in my neighborhood. So I just started going jogging for COVID.
Wow.
We're never here. We're always traveling. Just going jogging for COVID-19, you know, can't get to the gym. So you got to utilize your resources. So I'm going jogging, and people are looking at me crazy in my neighborhood, holding their kids closer and like really staring at me like a wild animal. And I know what it is already. You know, it's because I'm literally the only Black person on this whole block, this whole neighborhood, you know, and I have to wait to get in my car or get out of my car until the traffic continues to go, just because I don't want people to see that I'm Black walking into this nice house. You see what I'm saying? So it's different. It's very different. I'm very cautious of that, because I come from a situation where, you know, and like I said, in the dance scene, in terms of the dance scene, getting back to that, you know, because I could go on and on about my experiences, but getting back to the dance scene, we have to understand that I've never disclosed of any of this information to anybody other than people that are close to me, and even they are finding out new stuff until this happened. Why? Because for years and forever, Black people have been trained from young. If you're dark, this is even in Latin America, even in DR, your people will tell you, yo, you negrito. Like, it's colorism there too. You know what I mean? So we have to understand that in Latin America, colorism exists too. Now, within that context, I have had teachers pull me to the side and say, yo, you are going to have to work harder to get the same results, and I'm going to be tougher on you because of that. And that's why I'm here today to do this, because education and valuing education has helped me. So understanding that it goes very, very, very deep, very, very, very deep inside of my family. And when you've been set back 400 years, then once you are set off of that, they find a way to systematically put your kind in jail and become slaves in jail, because the private jails, the prisons in America are private prisons.
Yeah.
So for profit, they can do whatever they want and make you work. So they put black people, which there's about 70% of us in there in comparison to everything else. Not just black people, Latinos and blacks actually, and all minorities are pretty much the forefront of the jail, and we're the minority in the country. Does that make sense?
For sure. No. Listen, thank you so much for that, brother. Woo!
Yeah, I think I definitely agree.
Education, man.
Education.
I could go all day with this. This is like I'm not even
Listen. We feel you, brother. We feel you. We feel you. Trust. But we gotta keep it moving. We're gonna keep it going because we got a lot of things still coming. For those of you who just joined us, para ustedes que no han llegado. Oy, all my Spanish speaking people, I'm so sorry. They're like, why are you speaking the English?
Because right now we are talking to American and Canadian artists. This is our current language right now, guys. Sorry.
We're limited. Our budget is limited. But next time, when we get rich, we're gonna have the Spanish channel. We're gonna have the whole swag. All right. But for right now, we English, okay? Y'all need to calm down. So, Mr. Dejan, thank you so much for that. I want to do something real quick, Tanya, if it's okay. I want to just read off the definition of cultural appropriation, and then I want to give each one of our guests 2 minutes to share their experience, opinion, whatever you want to share regarding cultural appropriation.
Okay.
Cultural appropriation can be defined as the cherry picking or selecting of certain aspects of a culture and ignoring their original significance for the purpose of belittling it as a trend. Appreciation is honoring and respecting another culture and its practices as a way to gain knowledge and understanding. Cultural appropriation, at times also phrased as cultural inappropriation, and cultural misappropriation, is the adoption of an element or elements of one's culture by members of another culture. This can be controversial when members of a dominant culture appropriate from disadvantages minority cultures. Now, assimilation is not the same as cultural appropriation. Box braid, afro lip injections, y'all need to talk to me about that. Because, like I said earlier, I'm privileged. I'm different. So I'm gonna let y'all speak on this because it's a different swag. Tanya, should we bring the queen back? Is the queen ready?
Let's bring the queen back, and we'll talk just of the cultural appropriation we have. I know because you and I, Des, have had some conversations about some things we have observed. I don't want to name any names, but I do think it needs to be pointed out because, again, sometimes just people don't know.
Yeah.
So as far as the cultural appropriation that we have seen when it comes pertaining to the African experience, the Black experience, right? Because you can have cultural appropriation, all races or however you want to call it. But particularly when it comes to the African culture, what, if any, appropriations have you possibly seen in the scene that maybe some people might not think would be, or would think it's a compliment?
Hold on.
Finish that bottle.
Hey, it's been a lot, but I know she's about to go in. Go for it.
It's crazy because every time you come back to me, I'm like, this. Anyway, there are so many things, and I've touched on this before. Just talking about aesthetic in general and how we are conditioned to view one racial group or the traits that they have, right? The innate traits that they have as better than another cultural group. And that's like where I think it's all stemming from, because it's like, okay, were big booties in before? That's a general one. Kim Kardashian did it. And now all of a sudden, everybody loves a big booty. And we're just like, I'm going to get the big booty. I'm going to get the big booty. But then before, it's like, wait a second. I was like chastised. My girlfriends were chastised on the streets, in ballet class. I keep on going back to ballet class. I'm like, traumatized.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, girl. You keep it going.
In school as having a big ass, but we know it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
You like it, don't you like it?
You clearly, some of you are paying for it.
Exactly. But that's just like one example. Also with hair, okay? That's a huge other cultural appropriation.
That's definitely the one thing I want to talk about because it is definitely apparent in our dance scene.
Yeah.
Whether people want to admit it or not. It's the hair part.
And it's the cherry picking. It's the cherry picking. You want
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You might not be able to see me. I'm trying to raise my hand. You know, I'm trying to be a good boy. Big booties from birth. No, that's not what I wanted to say. But anyways, the hair thing. Can you speak to that? Because I don't think people real talk. I don't think people understand what you're talking about when you guys say the hair thing.
Yeah. Okay. So just like I led with this in the beginning, I have natural hair, and the way that my hair grows is upward. I got Harriet Tubman hair. Okay. I have strong hair. That is a beautiful thing. Okay. But
gravity.
I have been made to feel inferior about the way that I naturally am, about my hair. Just a couple of experiences that I've had for, people or promoters or other dancers to comment and say that my hair was unruly. My hair was, it was like tame and like, it's like wild, Well, I'm not going over here and telling you to tease your hair, girl. For me, talking about, can you straighten it? I mean, like, it is what it is. And I get like that there's a lot of people, especially in the commercial industry, it's like, you need to look like this. This is the look we're looking for, and you can't look any other kind of way. But that just becomes problematic because America doesn't look like that. So it's like we need
the world doesn't look like that.
Look like that. Exactly. And even if, it's so many layers, but and that's the thing. You're telling me to change who I am naturally because it doesn't fit with your thinking or your aesthetic. Do you see what I'm saying? You following me? You get me?
100%. All right. I just want to tell the kings that are waiting to talk.
Okay, go ahead.
They need to pause for a second because this is something that I think only queens like yourselves can really address. Because people really, I don't think, understand this, and you may need to speak to us as if we are 5-year-old children. So I'm going to ask the question like this. If I am a white woman, a European woman, please explain to me why it may be or not be appropriate for me to get the cornrows in my hair or for me to try to do the Afro swag or whatever. Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Queens, educate us. We talking about education. We need you to speak.
Tanya, you were saying something about it. I might let you bubble it up first.
I think the biggest thing for me, and obviously I'm not going to sit here and say that I know everything because, again, first of all, I just want to give a really quick background. I grew up mostly white. My mother's white. I had not a lot of education when it comes to my African-American heritage. However, I have spoken to girlfriends. I have spoken to other people of color, and I have understood what that means. And we've seen it in the comments. It's unfortunate, at least in America, but it's global, right? It's in Britain, you'll see it everywhere, where African women or women of African descent, especially those with hair that is more nappy or rough or however you describe that hair, whenever we're in a professional setting, we are told we need to straighten it, we need to put it up. Exactly what Desiree was just talking about. So you're already dealing with generations and years of being ridiculed for your natural hair. The problem comes in is when somebody who is not a person of color, and I'm going to say white, and we've seen this in our social media, they want our rhythm but none of our blues.
Yeah.
So you want to use the braids and you want to be part of the culture, but really not part of the culture.
Mhm.
That's, I think, the problem.
No, absolutely. And
Or at least one of the problems. It's not the only one, clearly.
yeah, no, totally. You want to put them little crochet braids in, girl. You know, slip it right out. But you would have put them crochet braids in, but then you would have chastised somebody else for wearing their afro. Okay. With, let's say, not rough and this, but a tight curl pattern. That's what we say now, tight curl pattern. But in general, I would just like to say PSA, all my sisters, I know you backing me up right here. We with Solange. Don't touch my hair. Okay, don't touch it. I'm not going up to you, petting you on the head. Don't come up to me, petting me on my head. It just doesn't work like that. I don't. What am I, an animal? What am I, like, for your viewing pleasure? Like, it does, or a body. You can't really be, you know, what's the word? Objectifying. That goes into a whole nother weed talk dance. So someone's body either. Like, oh, that's the black girl because she got the biggest ass, and she, you know, it's just like, it's just so layered.
It is. It really is.
And it's the more that you just deal with it, and the more that you just, I mean, like, I don't know. I grew up thinking this. I mean, like, living this, and it's just like more and more of this, and you're just like tired, you know. And someone's trying to explain it over and over again, like, don't touch my hair. This is me. This is how I am. And then you just get frustrated. So
I think it's just a matter of personal space. I mean, I get it too. And you and I don't share the same kind of hair texture, but just because I have these curls, people automatically feel they could just touch my curls. I do not belong to you. Why are you touching me? I am nobody's property. And I think that is one of the layers that some people of a certain racial status feel like they are entitled, whether they want to admit it or they know it. It is ingrained into our DNA. That is why we're acting out the way that we are. And I feel like that's why people just feel entitled to touch, because they wouldn't do it to anybody else. Why are you doing it to people of color?
And just even like, I mean, I could go on for several subjects I haven't even talked about, because yes, every time you guys have said it, Black women are amazing. And the things that different communities and different groups have taken from Black women trickled down into like several different groups, and trickled down into like white women taking and cherry picking things and claiming it for their own. Now you are the twerk police. You have authority on twerking. Like, I mean, it's like, that is, again, some topical ass stuff, but there are so many layers and layers to this. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I mean, I see, even from a peripheral view, I see some crazy stuff going down in the Kisoma community. The Kisoma, like, you know, Black guys with white women instead of Black women who dance Kisoma so well. They got big booties. They might have an even bigger booty. You know what I'm saying? But they're not getting the same kind of representation or play, or
I think there's definitely a deep level on that part, because I have noticed that too. We can definitely talk about that, but yes, there's definitely something.
So that's another layer of cultural appropriation that, you know, it's just,
Yes, fair enough.
I'd be biased.
Listen, I don't want no problem with no queens. I would never try to interrupt or stop some queen shit from happening.
Right.
However, we do have Desiree Godsell lined up as one of our guests for We Talk Dance non-special editions.
No.
So we gonna talk about all them things if it's okay with you.
Yeah. My baby's saying okay too.
I would never want to bring some brothers in when some sisters is doing their thing. But if y'all ladies is okay, can we see some time to these kings?
I think so.
Okay.
That, between that and the rum.
I think that was more than 2 minutes, is all I'm saying. Everybody got 2
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
You're right.
It was just a little bit more than 2 minutes. It wasn't
I just
a lot.
appreciate other people still
But
watching.
if y'all okay, can we bring? But only if y'all are okay with it.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. We're gonna bring our brother in from the north, from the T dot, Mr. Stennett. He gonna share some things about cultural appropriation. You have 3 minutes since the ladies went 2.5 minutes.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you.
It's
First thing right now, I'm under my rum.
Bullet.
Accent and Jazimi. The sign language guys, like, I don't have a clue what he just translate. Let me translate.
Bullet.
They should know. I'm under my rum, and when I'm under my rum, the accent kind of changes slightly. Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep it professional. Okay.
Keep in building now. Let's go.
Now, first, again, I like, my comrades, my colleagues on the call, they say stuff and you know what I mean, it makes me want to chip in and echo them and add on. So the hair part, I just want to touch on the hair part. Let me show y'all something. You see this? Malleable. I could do this to it. See how it stays there? See how it's reaching for the sun? I'm gonna give you guys some more stuff to look up. Look up frequencies. Okay? I'm gonna drop some science now. I'm gonna take it to science for a second. Rudy, you're a smart guy. I know this about you.
I'm listening. I was trying to do the thing, but it wasn't the same.
Give me the 3 states of matter.
Oh, water.
No.
Solid. And gas.
Yeah. Liquid,
solid, and gas. Okay, it's calm. Hey, let me catch up to you, brother. Let me catch up to you.
All good. Rum rules.
No more rum for Rudy, please.
You know it's real. Let's go.
Right. So I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. Okay,
solid, liquid, gas.
Solid and air, right? Now, all of those variations of matter are made up of what? Molecules. Right. And molecules are always doing what?
Moving.
Yes. Vibrating. Now, do you know that every single piece of matter on planet Earth vibrates at a different frequency?
Yeah.
I'm about to get deep with y'all right now. Holla if you hear me.
I'm listening. Let's go. Quantum physics is in the building.
You see this here, right here? This is vibrating at a different frequency. Its goal is to reach the sun. You see what I'm saying? Look it up. I'm going to give y'all something to look up. Our hair stands up on end because it vibrates at a different frequency. Higher levels. Tell me, I tell you no. Look into it deep. All right. Look into it deep. I don't play around. Okay. Stick a pin over there. Holla at your boy if you have more questions or concerns. I'm going to continue. What was the next part again? What were we talking about?
Cultural appropriation.
Cultural appropriation, frequencies, and quantum mechanics. Let's go.
Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna deviate a little bit, still within dance. But you all know I come from a Jamaican background, and dance hall is my true love. Okay. And anyone who follows dance hall, they know how worldwide it has gone. Okay. If you go to Russia, Germany, Brazil, all right, time out.
Time out. We got to give this brother some. That frequency shit, it was a lot. Right. We got to switch it up. We got to bring somebody else in.
Thank you, Dewan.
Dewan, you the man. You the man. He's like, hit him with the frequency. All right, let's go.
All right. Okay. So if you go to Russia, Germany, Japan, Brazil, the dance hall there is crazy. They don't speak English, but they can speak Patois.
Oh, sure.
Patois is the dialect or language in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. I've witnessed it with my own 2 eyes. I've traveled many, many places, and I purposely make it a point to go and visit the dance hall scene in all these places. And they are owning it, like literally owning it.
Meaning, like they're educating themselves in the culture?
Very good question. So here I go now. Owning it in the sense, and it depends, there's variations, but owning it in the sense that they're doing it like they are legit born and raised Jamaicans. Okay? Now, the problem, to your point earlier, the problem is not necessarily the fact that they want to do it or that they do it. The problem where it arises is when they become the ones credited for it. And they become the ones who are able to monetize it and don't pay the homage back or any financial gains to the originators and creators. If you look, as we speak right now, as I just said that last sentence, 50 different dancehall moves have just been created. That's my word. Okay? And those guys that are creating those moves, right? They live in the ghetto, the gutter, the garrison. When you start doing these moves, they're on bare feet, cut off shorts that were pants that they've cut into shorts. No shirt on. You see what I'm saying? I'm being real. And they're creating these dances and they're posting them and they go whoop, 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 whoop. They reach Europe, they reach Japan, and all of a sudden, bam. So what has been happening now within that movement, because dancehall's gone so worldwide, a lot of people locally in Jamaica are like, this ain't right. We're being robbed yet again of our natural resources. Okay? So now this is not everybody. There are some people who will take the dances and dancehall it's a genre of dance where the community is very open. Okay, they share a lot of the moves, they post it, take it. If you can learn it, it's yours, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And for me, I like to connect the dots back to history. This sounds very repetitive to when trade used to happen along the Atlantic. Okay. Your question, go ahead, sir.
No. I want you to finish on that. Trade with Atlantic.
Okay.
Let's go.
When trade, because before slavery, there was still trade happening between Africa, the western coast of Africa, and Europe. Okay. And a lot of it was civil at first. Okay. But then when people start to get a little too hungry and greedy, that's when it became vile and wicked and evil, right? So I'm seeing what's happening right now, and it's very similar. I can draw the comparisons, right? So now within the dancehall community, the guys who originate these moves and originate these steps, they're taking a smarter approach. You know what I mean? They're keeping more of their moves. They're still advertising themselves and marketing themselves, but they've learned how to say, hey, you know what? Bring me to your event over yonder. Let me teach your followers, so on and so forth. So at least they can put a little pocket money back inside of their pocket. And as an instructor or director in Russia or Japan, so on and so forth, you now have an obligation to say, hey, this step I'm about to teach you is from Black Eagles in Jamaica.
That is the number one thing. And that's one of the questions that I saw in the chat is how can we pay homage? You know, financials, okay, that's great. But just say where the move is from. That's the least you can do.
Yes.
The minimum. Let them know, Alemana. Clifton, my brother. All right, we're going to NOLA, where I need some crawfish, some swag. I need some good food. Throw some sauce on it. Dejan, are you ready? Speak on cultural appropriation, my brother.
Within the scene, sir.
We're going to give you 3.5 minutes.
Honestly, man, you know, when you talk about cultural appropriation, I just want you to break that definition. What definition do you have for that down? I know what it is, but I want you to break that definition down so that I really, really am 100% stick to the narrative.
All right, we're going to go back to the beginning. Cultural appropriation can be defined as the cherry picking or selecting of certain aspects of culture and ignoring their original significance for the purpose of belittling it as a trend. Appreciation is honoring and respecting another culture and its practices as a way to gain knowledge and understanding. Cultural appropriation at times also phrased cultural inappropriation and cultural misappropriation is the adoption of an element or elements of one culture by members of another culture. This can be controversial when members of a dominant culture appropriate from disadvantages of minority cultures.
And the main thing, Dejan, is just because this actually was something that I wanted to get everyone's feedback on, because I've seen it myself, specifically with the women. And I don't know, again, I am not aware of everything all the time. So I don't know how the men maybe, or, have that part of the cultural appropriation within the scene. I see it with the women all the time. They got the box braids, they got the fake froze, I see it. I don't see it with the men personally, not to say that it's not there, but that's why I want to get the feedback as far as like, okay, is it happening on both sides? Is it just the women that are being appropriated?
I will say that I don't see or experience too much of it. I just see a lot of people teaching bachata, like Dominican style bachata specifically, or saying Dominican bachata, and they have no idea, probably never been to DR, never ever danced Dominican bachata other than, maybe on a stage somewhere, or maybe took a class, but they don't understand any of the movements and cultural roots and things that are involved in actual bachata, which is very, very, very deep. A whole nother subject. I only see very few people, not just in America, but around the world, that put that label of Dominican bachata on there. And there's no understanding of that at all. So that's that's the closest thing I could really, other than people teaching Afro and not giving homage to, and salsa, not giving homage or paying homage to the orishas y todo, and the Afro-Cuban movements, and respecting the culture and respecting that, just like this girl, Serena, yeah, she's saying it, yeah. So that's extremely huge. So what do you got? You got a Tigre?
There's a lot of Dominican bachata experts who are not Dominican. Go on.
Exacto. So, and that, you know what? The thing is, this is the thing, Bo. It goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of bachata experts who are not Dominican, but there's also
Dominican bachata experts. There's a lot of fair-skinned Dominican bachata experts who are not Dominican. But go ahead.
But either way, there's both. There's both. There's Dominican people, or Dominican guys, or Dominican girls who feel that just because I'm Dominican, I can just give you bachata automatically, and everything that's involved with the culture as well. So it goes both ways. Now, in terms of what's just going on, and right now, in the climate of what's happening right now, I don't appreciate anybody that wants to get into the culture of the dance, the art of the dance, and everything, and you just take steps and you take choreography, and then you try to push that on people without giving them the cultural context and everything surrounded, the African diaspora. A lot of other artists speak about that, as well as myself, that are African, that are of African descent, and then you get into that situation. So honestly, that subject is something that I'm not an expert at, but there's other subjects that we're about to get to that I'm going to be an expert at. So I want you guys to not waste too much time on this, and let's move to the Queen Desiree, and then we'll get back to
Tanya, what time is it?
All right, it is at this point now. We are 2 hours into this session, by the way. We had planned for an hour and a half, but that's cool. We got to keep talking. So as long as we're talking, it works. So we've gone over some subjects. Now, the next thing that's coming up is current events. Obviously, you guys have been on social media. Who hasn't? We've been home. COVID is still happening. So a lot of us are at home, and we're on the phone, on our computer. So we realize what is happening in our current scene right now. Again, a disclaimer. We are not naming names. We will not be gossiping. That is not what this is about. When we go into the questions and answer situation, if you ask a question about a particular person, it's not going to be answered. I'm just going to say that right now, because we're not about gossiping. This is about having a healthy and positive conversation about our current climate, not about shitting on other people and gossiping. I just want to point that out right now. So with that said, we are going to go into the current events. as far as discussing mainly cancel culture. We've seen it in Hollywood. We've seen it in different things. You see it all over Twitter. Kevin Hart was canceled for a little bit for stuff that he said a few years ago. And now we're seeing it in our scene as well. So we want to get the different
100%.
perspectives.
100%. Thank you, Ton Jay-Z. All right. When we talk about the current events, the things that we really want to address today specifically are: 1, blacklists, timeouts. How do we address people who are acting the fool? And how do we maintain accountability within the scene? Alemana and I got some things to say about this, but before we do, we want to hand it over to our panelists, and we're going to start off with the queen, Miss Godsell. Hey, you can get your popcorn and your tea out. It's okay. Let's go.
Listen, Linda. Okay. So, like I keep on saying, this is so layered. There's so many. I could be like on this side of it. I could be on this side of it. What are the sides to me? First of all, my mama told me, and I learned in Vacation Bible School, the golden rule: do unto others, right? So I would like to think if someone was only, they made a mistake, right? And then they acknowledged the mistake. Okay, you know what? I have forgiveness in my heart, right? But at the same time, it's like, well, what is it? What was it that you did that was so horrible, that was so unforgivable, that we have to banish you to kingdom come, right? But on the flip side of that, especially when it's regarding people attacking my humanity, you know what I'm saying, and me as a human being, then it's like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of you know, and you might be the straw that broke the camel's back. I can't deal with this anymore. Yeah, I've all of the sexist talk, all of the racist talk, you were the right person on the wrong day kind of thing, or flips or whatever. But I can't take anymore. So I understand people being so frustrated and so tired of dealing with racist people or sexist people or, you know, sexual offenders, that they have to like cancel them. Well, that should always be, I feel like, a little you know, I'm really like, for instance, okay, I'm the type of person, if I've had dialogue with you, if I've ever conversated with you, actually, if I consider you an acquaintance, a friend, I'm going to have a conversation with you before I just block you. That's who I am as a person. And you would have to talk to me and tell me what exactly you feel. Because a lot of times, first of all, I just put this out there. I don't know how to work Facebook. Okay, Facebook, there's too many things. I'm getting too many Candy Crush Saga notifications. And I'm like, wait, where did this person say this? We're canceling this person because I can't see what's happening. And then a lot of times, I talked about this earlier, Rudy, too. What ends up escalating a situation is that people don't take the time to proofread what they're saying, right? Just like they're spewing because they're coming from like a defensive place. And so what ends up happening is that it just gets worse. It gets worse. The whole thing gets worse.
All right. So here's what we're trying to do. Is clearly there are going to be where somebody is going to act up.
Yeah. We all
we do all act up, but we don't all act up.
Different levels.
So some of us are gonna act up a little more than others, and I guess what Tanya and I wanted to get from you guys today is when someone crosses that line, whatever that line is, And the line is specific to each individual, right? And we're not here to say that our line is the definitive line, right?
Right.
However, if let's say Desiree Godsell feels that the line has been crossed by X, Y, Z, you already said it, I think, perfectly. And I agree with you. If you know the person, if you hit them up
directly
in the DM.
Like, what
Yo, let's talk about this. Now, if you don't know the person, or if you don't have that relationship, or if maybe the person done blocked it in you,
right?
What do you suggest? How do we handle notifying the community and working through this as a community? Because the reality is this shit is real, and we need to start moving towards some kind of understanding or consensus of how do we handle people who are wilding out in the scene.
Right. And I mean, I think that goes to what's happening right now with where are people and where are students, where are community members going and spending their dollars. And I think that buying power has a lot of power. Now, whether you're trying to cancel somebody out because they're just a bitch, sorry, I don't know if we could cuss. I just did it.
Oh, we could cuss on here. We could cuss on here.
Just because you're canceling somebody, so don't. And I mean, this is a slippery slope, guys, right? Because we can cancel somebody out for that, or you could just not support them. Is that the same thing? Not supporting and canceling? I don't know. That's one question. And then two, then it's different, right? When maybe like you've accused somebody of something and, the person has not defended themselves or they haven't made any kind of statement, which is problematic because then you should make a statement so everybody knows how you really feel. But then, and then a person's getting like death threats or something. I don't know. Is that right?
I don't think anybody should be getting death threats unless they trying to kill somebody. You know what I mean? And if they're getting death threats, it should be from the FBI or some shit like that.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
The family involved.
I'm just like, listen, if we as artists, I know Island Touch is a brand, right? Island Touch is a brand, and Island Touch put out a statement of this is how we feel. Just like I said this before, just like Nike and all of these other companies put out statements because people want to know in this day and age, 2020, I only want to support people that are like-minded, right? You know what I'm saying? That are down for the cause, that are down for humanity and for just ethical. That are ethical, you know what I'm saying? So if you don't, if that doesn't align with me, then I'm not going to support you. But people want to know that. And so I think that's part of the frustration is that, people are like, I haven't seen this person like post something or this kind of thing, so I'm going to cancel them. But it just gets slippery because if I've ever made a mistake, which I have before, I've made several different mistakes, but I guess it's the
severity and also the level of where your mistake is being made. I've made plenty of mistakes behind closed doors. I said some shit that I'm not proud of.
Right.
But you got to also understand where you're putting your opinion. I think that's my thing, is just understanding the level. I'm not saying that anything particular. I'm just saying that there's different levels of where you can make your mistake. Everybody's allowed to make your mistake, but you also got to own the fact that when you make your mistake publicly, there will be public repercussions
and the consequences and repercussions. Yes, absolutely. But then I guess the question is, who is the spectrum police? You know what I'm saying? Like,
all right. So look, but before we take it to my man, the king from Toronto, to that bullet, Jamaica in a building. So look, first of all, we all make mistakes. I agree with that 100%. Personally, myself, I have had to come to grips with, catcalling ain't cute. You know, you grew up in the hood. Hey, get off at the lease, that booty, blah, 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 blah. And I have been at 7 a.m. in the morning, drunk, chilling at a Congress and be like, El Diablo, that ass. That's wrong. That's wrong. You know what I mean? So this is not about who's perfect, who's not perfect. What's that we know nobody here is perfect. And what we're trying to practically deal with is the reality is we have artists and leaders who are acting the fool, and we need a practical way of coming together and addressing those issues in a meaningful way. So before I hand it over to you, Clifton, to hear your opinion, as an organizer, as a promoter, I look at people and I see what they say online. And I'm like, oh no, I can't hire that person. That's me. But I want to know what you guys as artists, leaders in the community, what do you think are practical? We need to speak in practical terms because we need to be able to start implementing some shit tomorrow. Let's do it now. We're going to switch ASL real quick. Thank you so much, Candace. My brother, the Juan, you ready? You lit? All right. So let's keep it moving. So we need because look, the theory is dope, and I'm all about theory. And if y'all want to hit me up on the DMs or you want to call me, we could talk about theory all day, all night. But I want to try to walk away today. Alemana hit me up and said we need to walk away today with 1, 2, something that's practical that can be implemented tonight. If someone is wilding the fuck out, how do we deal with that as a community? Clifton, you're on.
All right. So I'm going to give you my honest opinion and how steps in how to conduct oneself and how to potentially defuse a situation.
Okay.
So as an individual, as a consenting adult, first thing, and Desiree touched on it, before you, and I tell my son this, these are all things I tell my 9-year-old son, before you open your mouth, think about what it is you're trying to say. Same thing goes for typing. Before you get behind your keyboard and become a caps lock bad man, figure out what it is you're trying to say and what you want to say to the public before you hit enter. That's the first thing. Now, let's say you did not do that. You failed at number 1. Number 2, if you had said something that not even necessarily upset people, but put a big question mark on the faces of many people. And these people who aren't even necessarily strangers, these are people who you know and who know you, who look up to you, especially if you're a leader within your community. I feel like, just my personal opinion, and no one has to agree, I feel like you have somewhat of an obligation to explain yourself. And it doesn't have to be that we agree, but have respect for the person who is asking the question, especially if they're sincerely asking you a legitimate question. Okay, so you have to be able to, 1, be held responsible for everything you say and do. Okay, this goes without saying. This is in the dance scene and outside the dance scene. Not only that, but now when you're held accountable for that thing, that action, that word, whatever it is you've done, you now have to be held responsible, and you have to speak to it. Now, that's on the side of the individual. On the side of the person who's receiving such information, now with me, I'm a researcher. Listen, I'm gonna tell you up front, guys, on subjects that I know nothing about. You won't even hear a peep. Talk about cars, I know nothing about it. I know how to put gas in it, and I know. Yeah.
Me too.
Right? Talk to me about Black history. We can talk for weeks and months. Okay? So the thing is, when you see something don't automatically transform into a sheep. Do your own research. You know what I mean? Come to your own conclusion. Don't be what we call in Jamaica. We call people who do this, we call them wagonists. You know what a wagonist is? Someone who jumps on the bandwagon. You're a wagonist.
Learn something.
Okay? Not because, listen, you see this guy right here? You see Dejan? I love this guy to death. Dejan, I want to come back to New Orleans. Let's have pajama parties. Let's do the next one at Dejan's house. Pajama party style. We can all drink all night. I love this guy to the moon and back. Okay.
I wasn't ready for the pajama. I don't know where the pajamas came from. I was ready for the party, but I don't know why we got these pajamas.
I just love PJ.
Love you too, bro.
Respect, my brother. But hear me out. Just because him or Rudy or Tanya, Desiree, it's because you guys, I love you guys, and you come to me and tell me something, I'm not going to necessarily agree or believe without me doing my own research. You cannot assume.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
You understand me? You cannot assume. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. You understand? So you cannot do that. Okay? So first and foremost, do your research. Now, let me take it to another side now real quick before we pass the baton to my man Dejan. All right. So if you put yourself out there and you are constantly being called out for certain things, I have a saying, and I know you all know it. If it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, and it sounds like a duck, it's not a pigeon. A duck. Okay? Trust me on that. So if one person, 5 people, 10 people are saying the same thing about you, if this were me, and I have things, we all have issues. All my closest friends, talk to my 2 sisters, they will tell you, I don't know if they're watching right now, they will tell you, I am one of the most sarcastic and condescending people that most people know, and I'm working on it. Many people have said this about me. They can't all be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Stop pointing the finger at everybody else and take a second and look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, a lot of people are having issues with me. What is it that I'm projecting? What is it that I am doing or maybe not doing that I need to do or maybe not do? You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like self-reflection is important in this thing. You got to be able to sit with yourself and talk to yourself and be like, who am I really? And really and truly, if you are, this topic is about Black Lives Matter and racism and so on and so forth. If you boil yourself down to the nitty gritty and you come to the conclusion that, you know what? I am a racist. Then you got to ask yourself 2 questions. 1, do you care to fix it? Or 2, are you just gonna stay as you are? You know what I mean? And that's just some self-reflection you got to do for yourself. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Clifton.
Dejan, it's on you, brother. Let's go. Nola in the building. Crawfish time is hot and spicy.
Really quick. So first off, I want to say that everything that everybody's been saying has been spot on. I mean, it's been everybody. Cliff, Desiree, everybody. Everything's been spot on. What I will say first is, as somebody that wakes up in the morning and, like Cliff said, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, tells people to go do something with a duck's penis, it's probably a duck. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move forward and say, when you wake up in the morning, not something that I'm looking for. I wake up in the morning and I get about 12 to 15 women in my inbox. Either Chloe is about to kill me or something is happening. All right. So when you go through those and you see a picture of your friend let's say murdering somebody else, holding them above whatever it is with this, and then all of a sudden a narrative comes out of something about whatever your friend is doing, and because it's your friend, you look the other way and you don't say anything because there is no police other than the oppressed Black people like myself who are feeling very, very sensitive and tense right now about situations like this, specifically with people in our dance community that are teaching on the fundamental grounds of African and Afro-Latino culture and money and making a living off of it, and who should at least care about it in some sort. But when you get that, there's some type of emotional response as somebody, as a leader, that you get from seeing something happen to in the Afro-Latin dance community that you love and cherish. That's something that happens within the context of what's going on being a Black man as well. And then seeing another supposed leader in the Afro-Latin dance community not understand that, first off, we have a platform. And as a leader, especially a women's empowerment leader, there's something called intersectionality.
We'll talk about that later.
That's another we talk gangster, John. Don't be jumping to other shit. That's later.
But it's cool, you know. Hey, I'm not worried. If that's what you like, that's what you like. You can, hey, I'm all with it. So, but anyway, intersectionality, understanding if you're standing for one of these movements specifically, all right, in humanity, that you will care about all humans. So at this point, looking at this, like Desiree said, you have a brand to uphold. You have a brand. If Nike is doing it, they're coming out, people want to know. Now, in terms of cancel culture, it's not the understanding of cancel culture is not something that I do. Cancel culture is something that your support system does. Cancel culture is something that your students or the people or your friends or anybody around you that supports you stop supporting you, like you guys said earlier. So sometimes when you look at the situation and you look at the reason why George Floyd was put in jail, I mean his George Floyd's killer was put in jail or in custody, is because he was held accountable. Now, as leaders and people that have a platform like that, we have to first understand that what we post and what we choose to put out there, whether it be opinion that you're entitled to or not, is going to get an arise, whether positive or negative, from your fan base and your supporters. Now, if you're willing to take the great likes and all of the stuff that you post when you get all of this stuff and people sharing whatever you share to the millions, then you post something else. You post something else. You got to be able to take the bad and be held accountable for it. Now, in terms of Dejan and Dejan's actions, in terms of what I did, I saw something that was absolutely unreal in my eyes. Not an opinion. I saw all kinds of things that everybody else saw and everybody else reacted to, and I felt that everybody needed to see that. Period, point blank, with everything that's going on. Now, am I right or am I wrong? That's up for anybody that wants to say, I'm right, I'm wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm also not saying I'm wrong. I'm very, 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 I feel great about the situation because people are being held accountable and this conversation has been started. Now, in terms of the understanding that going back to that, I am responsible and for my actions, period. Now, when somebody, and like I said, I'm not somebody that is just trying to create something of someone. The proof is in the pudding. Reply and answer, everything is there. You know, and the narrative at one point was like, okay, you're just putting one side out. The thing is, if I wanted to really destroy someone, I have so much stuff and more screenshots that are 10 times worse than that. So if that was the narrative of what I wanted to do, it will be done. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I want to make sure that we move forward and trying to create progress. Now, and that's just protecting myself from people that feel as though I'm trying to destroy somebody, and that's not the case. But at the end of the day, when you stick to that same exact narrative and you do not even care enough about your fan base or your support, in order to just reply and say, this is what I meant, and you continue doubling down on that, that is just giving your fan base and everybody else that supports you more fuel and more understanding to believe that. Now, I'm not your friend. I'm not somebody that talks to you every day. Like a lot of people that have called me and talked to me and had conversations to me that have tried to reach out and have been denied. You know,
Dejan, my brother, everything you're saying is dope. I do want to try to come back to practical matters in terms of other people, because obviously, you know, there was a situation that happened, and I appreciate you clarifying some of the things that happened with specific people, but I don't want to get too much into that. Let's focus a little bit more.
It's just very hard not to.
No, I get it. I'm with you, and I'm not saying what you
because I know exactly what we're talking about. So I'll stay away from that, and we can move to more practical things.
No, 100%, and I'm not saying at all that what you said was wrong or none of that. I'm just saying because there is a subject out there with someone or other people involved, and unfortunately they're not here. I don't want it to look like we're talking about them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's what you were doing. But I just want to give you the opportunity to continue to focus on, okay, as a community, if we find ourselves in that situation, how do we move forward and behave? So if you can give a closing statement on that, like, look, if I was in that situation, this is what I'm gonna do. Obviously, we've seen what you've done, and everyone can judge. My humble personal opinion is what I've seen so far, I'm okay with. But I don't want to focus on things that are ethereal or not within the scope of what we're talking about. Thank you, brother. Go ahead. So go ahead and wrap that up, and then we're going to go to one of the questions.
In terms of moving forward, there is nowhere to go with that. Like as of right now, and there is nowhere where you could just go and say, you know, whatever, unless I know this person and I'm going to call this person up and say, yo, what are you doing? But after seeing something like that, and that many people and that many situations, you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward? So every situation is going to be different in terms of how you scale what you're going to do. But in terms of, there's nothing that we have right now. There's no judicial system, or there's no anything like that in the salsa scene. And that's something that we have to create, because without that, or being able to put somebody give somebody a fair trial to defend themselves or do something like that. Without that, you're going to continue to see exactly that from a lot of different people, as you are continuing to see it, because people are realizing that that's the only thing that will hold people accountable in the scene at this point, is when things like that happen. Everybody's realizing that. So that's why I'm getting so many screenshots and so many different things, because people only see that that's what got results. So unless we start to produce something else that's going to get results and get people to say, get people to be at least held accountable, then that's going to keep happening. So we have to make sure that some type of judicial system or something is created in order to give people, like I said, a fair trial. Even a murderer gets a fair trial.
Real talk. Tanya, you got anything you want to add to that?
I'm just soaking everything up.
Real talk.
No,
thank you, Dejan.
Thank you. I mean, to all.
And you know what, Alemana, Tanya, I'm sorry. I just want to apologize because I'm an intense individual. Period.
You don't need to apologize.
No.
So
you don't need
I'm gonna stop you right there.
In general, no. I just don't want people to get the wrong idea, because I'm really emotional about this right now, and in terms of how sensitive this is and everything that I've experienced. So I don't want people to, feel that I'm
Number one, Dejan, I gotta stop you, because you don't need to apologize for anything.
Nope.
No, you don't have to apologize for it, because this particular subject that we all know what we're talking about is an extremely sensitive subject. It 100%. Is based on race, and knowing where you come from and the experiences that you've had, it's obvious why it would be more sensitive. So, and you don't have to apologize for that. So
No,
I don't, you don't need to
100%.
apologize to me. You don't need to apologize to me. You don't need to apologize to anybody here that's on the panel. You're fine.
No.
So being passionate is fine in my book.
Yes, sir.
You're passionate. That's how I feel.
Brother. Nah, we respect your position, King. Tanya,
yes.
Break it down. Where you at? You got anything you want to share?
No. The thing is for me with the cancel culture that we're talking about at this point, I'm still very much on the fence. I am with Dejan on that because we don't have an actual system to go off of. It's very hard to figure out. I mean, everybody, we got our opinion. We're like, oh, that was a little harsh. But was it though? Like, it might be harsh for one person and not so harsh for the other person. It's really hard to try to make a decision and say like, oh no, I'm against it, or no, I'm totally for it, because it does depend on the situation. And I consider myself a very sympathetic and empathetic person. So I do feel for the other people that might be on the shitty end of it. To some extent, as a human being, I feel for them as a human being. Do I agree with what happened? No, absolutely not. But there is a part of me inside of me that's like, damn, it's just so sad. So when it comes to cancel culture, it's hard to try to take a definitive stand, I would say. But yeah, you're right. It would be so much easier if we had a system to go up, just like everything else.
Dale, mi mano.
Yeah.
Dale.
So one more thing, there's also, just on the flip side of that, there's also other individuals that have done things in the community, myself included. You know, I've done, you probably, this thing, me and Tigere met, really kind of started like gelling on a situation like that. But what happened was Tigere said, you know what, I'm going to handle this when I see this dude. And we diffused it. Yeah. So but it was a very, very different situation. There wasn't a Black Lives Matter movement happening and all of that stuff. But he was like, let's diffuse it. We had a drink. We discussed it. Then there's other situations where people like myself have messed up in the community publicly. Crazy. But right after I diffused and handled the situation at the lowest level, so people understood what was going on with me and what I meant or what happened. Same thing with another individual yesterday, and nobody's doing anything to that person anymore. That person is doing their thing, you know. So at the end of the day, you have to still respect whether whether you believe the apology or whether you believe somebody caring enough to at least do whatever they're doing to try to reconcile with their fan base or the people that care about them or their friends or whatever. You have to still, and that's just for everybody, you have to respect the fact that they at least care to do that. Now, if you don't, however, then it's going to be what it is, and that's going to be left out there for interpretation, depending on if the person knows you already or depending on if the person is affected by whatever movement that the overall clouded ambiance is about, and how that person is affected by that is going to also determine how they're going to react to everything. Well, I'm more on this side because I know this person and I know that like this, but then this person has no idea who this person is, and they're like, man, I know what's going on in my country and I know what's going on in my scene, and I'm trying not to let that spread. You see what I'm saying? So there's so many.
That's what's up. Before Desi, we're gonna go to you right now. But before we go to you, we're gonna switch our interpreters because they need a break. You know what I mean? They out here, they working, they putting in that work.
We love you guys.
They putting in that work. Go ahead, Desi.
No, I was just like, I totally agree with you. It's like, again, if we're talking about brands, it's like, listen, get your PR department up. And if your PR is you need to put out some statements because you need to take the witness stand and let people know, hey, listen, no, you've got the wrong idea. But just like I said, that I don't understand Facebook so much. You know, there's a lot of people who now might have clouded visions of what the first issue was to begin with, because there's so many people coming out sideways with different things. So now it's like, are we canceling somebody because they skipped people in tech rehearsal? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, we don't understand, you know, with the whole social media thing. So it's like, listen, if we're canceling somebody because they are a womanizer, a woman abuser, and multiple people have come out and stated so, and there's pending criminal cases, you know what I'm saying? and we're like, boom, this is why we're canceling you. But when it comes to a point where it's like, maybe it's unclear to the ultimate underlining reason, then people are like, okay, well, I don't know. But I will say this to just blank this whole thing. Like Clifton said, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And if it's, just think about it. If it's insensitive, maybe you should not say stuff, you know? Right? But I mean,
All right.
with this, there's no, I mean, it's hard to say what's right.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting ready to open it up to the peoples who they shout out to everyone on the
Who's been staying on for
Facebook,
2.5 hours.
at YouTube. They've been waiting. They're like, I want my question answered. We're about to hand it over to you. We got 20 minutes of question and answers, and
Let's
then
say
we gotta
15.
call it a wrap. Yeah, maybe 15. What I would like to say is, first and foremost, I want to shout out, salute, trago swag to my brother Dejan Polanski for putting himself out there. I don't care if you agree or not, for standing up for what he believes in, because I think that's important. Not enough people nowadays stand up for what they believe in. Everybody's cute and cool as long as it's chill, but when it's something that might be controversial, they don't want no problems. With that said, I think it's very important to address that not everybody's called to being a whistleblower. Just because you got 100 million followers don't mean you gotta be a platform for speaking up truth or whatever.
Right.
Not everybody's called to the ministry, as they say. Now, I think Desi said something really dope in her chat with Alex the other day, which is, hey, brands be letting us know where they stand, because as a consumer, we want to know what we want to spend our money. And I think that's important too. So if you don't want to be out on the front lines yelling or whatever, that's cool. But we do want to know where you stand as a brand, because people do want to be discerning with how they spend their money. Right. If you don't, we paying attention, whatever. I'm not here to judge nobody for that. But everyone has a lane, and people need to stick to that lane. And we shouldn't pressure people to be in a lane that they're not. Not everybody's called to do what Dejan did in the last couple of days. And just because somebody don't do that, don't mean they don't love Black lives. Don't mean they're not about that life. So with that said, those of you who feel called, go at it. Share the truth with us. Yes. Let us know what you know.
However, I will have to add, because we got to be very clear.
Go Queen.
We have to be very clear, because everybody has a platform. Doesn't mean you got to open your mouth about it. That's number one. We got to be very clear between the intentions. And you know what I mean? Like, if there's good intentions behind what you're saying, go for it. If your sole intention is to troll, get the fuck out of here. We don't need trolling. We need truth.
Mm-hmm.
Have good intentions. Don't do it just because you need extra likes, because your ego is hurt for the moment or you're insecure. That's not what it's about. And I will say that because there's plenty of people that will say some asinine things just for the likes, which is ridiculous in my book. So,
no, girl.
100%. Clifton, we're going to get to you in a second.
Sorry.
100%. Your intentions in life, as a general rule, need to be checked. Whatever you do needs to be for the right intentions. If you're going to share the screenshots, if you got the dirt on someone and you feel led by the Lord to do that, I stand with you. Now, with that said, some of y'all are sharing things that you shouldn't be sharing. I think that, as was said before, call the person first. I think every human deserves at least one DM, one text message, one call first. Hey, I saw this. You want to, and if they tell you, then okay, go for it. So, but that's my main thing is, we're not all called to this fight. we should all support the fight. And when we see the information out there, as my brother Clifton said, we need to Google it and figure the shit out and make sure we're not just following it because Desi says we need to follow it.
Don't do what I said. Okay.
No, yeah, don't do it just because Desi said we should do it. Even though that's what I do. I just like, yo, what does Desi say? All right, I'm gonna do that. So right. We're gonna open it up for questions, but again, in terms of practical things, if you, not to be cliche, but shout out to the transit authority. If you see something, say something, because for too long, people haven't been saying anything. And I'd rather people say too much than too little, because that's how the ladies have been oppressed. That's how the brothers have been oppressed. And we'll deal with you for talking too much shit if we got to, but I'd rather have to deal with you talking too much shit than you not talking enough shit. So,
with good intentions.
But with hashtag with good intentions. All right. With that said, we are going to open it up to the peoples. Peoples, it's your time. Speak it up. Ask questions to everybody. We got 6:50 is official shutdown process time. So who got something to say? Ask your questions. Let's go. I'll be right back.
Let's see here. Let's see. I think Bianca, can you pull up Monique Richard? Yes, perfect. We on the same wavelength. Okay, so she goes, Monique says, I'm going to ask, what are we doing for our Black women who come into this community to enjoy our music and dance, but end up leaving because they feel excluded and underrepresented? We want to be asked to dance, teach, and perform. We need to be featured. Oh shit, this is a question for me. What will Island Touch do going forward? Well, Monique, thanks for the spotlight. Okay. What we're going to do, because obviously Rudy's also part of this situation. However, we are one team. It is our responsibility, number one, when it comes to represent. Okay, so Rudy, you missed the question.
No, I heard it, girl. You go, girl. You go. I trust the queen. I trust the queen.
The thing is, I'm going to be very transparent. I'm a very transparent person. I don't claim to be perfect. I have mentioned that right at the beginning. I grew up in a white household, so I don't know sometimes what I don't know. And I will be very honest with you. When it even comes to this scene, I personally am not made aware of all the amazing African American or just African artists that are out there. It took me a long time to try to find the pictures, because you see it at the congresses where it's really a lot of light-skinned people on stage. I don't see a lot. Even like just going through different congresses, I'm like, where are the darker people? I don't see it. So she's absolutely right. It's underrepresented. I can't speak on something that I don't have all the information for. I'm not going to say that they're not there, because they are. I don't know what we could do. Rudy, I'm going to let you take that over.
Girl. I got you, queen. First and foremost, you want to know what Island Touch is going to do? You see this black queen right here? That's number one. Number two, you see all the black people on these squares right here? They all invited to our events every time. Island Touch has 2 black queens on the squad, number one. Number two, at all our events, we bring black peoples and we let them rock. Again, I know I'm privileged, I'm sorry, Dejan and Clifton. My mama was Puerto Rican as fuck, white as hell. It's not my fault. My daddy black. But anyways, at Island Touch, you know what we do? We see color. Not that we don't see color. We see it. We believe black is beautiful, white is beautiful, yellow is beautiful. All the colors are beautiful. So we hire people based on their skill, but we make sure there's always representation. As a matter of fact, our media team is representation on representation. Why do you ask? Why is the media team important? Because when we do the after parties of our event, you don't just see the black talent on the stage. You see the black people social dancing, the brown people social dancing. Go back and look at all your favorite festivals and look at the videos of how was their Congress. And you look at Island Touch and you see if there's brown people having a good time, smiling and social dancing. So that's what we do at Island Touch, and we will continue to do, and we will continue to be educated because we are far from where we need to be. We are far from perfect, and we want to continue to grow and continue to learn how to help and make Black lives matter, brown people matter in our scene, and continue to grow the cultural education, etc.
So for Monique, because the question was also for mostly just women of color, Monique, obviously having this conversation today and having to check myself of the things that I'm not aware of, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to having more conversations with women of color and talk to them. Because again, I do realize that I have a privilege. I'm an artist at the top level. So there's some things that I'm not aware of. That's not an excuse. I'm not saying that to be an excuse. However, I do need to make sure that I have the conversations, and I'm going to put the responsibility on myself because I am a woman of color and I should know these things. So I am going to be making sure that I'm going to be having these conversations with women of color to see what the issue is, what are the obstacles that we're facing right now in our scene, and how can I be instrumental in making sure that those obstacles go away or they get minimized, because I do have the platform that I have. So I just want to let Monique know specifically, and all the other ladies that maybe have had a question about it, is that's one of the things that I'll personally be doing.
We're going to go to Clifton, and then we're going to go to the next question. The people been waiting. We got to keep it going. And if we have to go overtime without interpreters, and some of the artists will do it, but we want to give everybody an opportunity to participate. So Clifton, do it.
All right, I'm going to keep it quick. So first thing, to address the question that was out there, I have a couple ideas. One is where we can actually, throughout history, if we didn't see people who look like us, who can relate to us, who, been through the same situations as us in certain industries, we tend to shy away from those industries, right? I have a lot of Black friends I know that I dance with in the Latin community, and they're like, really? Why? There's no Black people dance salsa. That's the response I get. That's the response. That's a problem. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of Black people that dance salsa, first of all. And without these Black people, salsa would not exist. This is the thing that people don't understand and don't know. So I feel like if there were more of us that were actually put out there in front of the public, I feel like it would attract more of an audience in to participate. That's my first thing. The second thing is kudos and hats off and a respect and acknowledgement to the Black women who are putting themselves out there right now, who are in the congresses, who are at the shows, who are performing and still fighting for our visibility, for your visibility. You know what I mean? But we need, this is my opinion, we need even more of you to show up. I'm gonna tell you right now, not only that, and we also need more people like me and other guys like myself to engage with those people, dance with them. I have a rule. If I'm on the dance floor, I never say no. If I don't feel like dancing, I'm leaving the dance floor. That is me. You're not gonna see me. If I'm standing up, I'm kicking it with Rudy, we doing the cheers, and someone says, can I dance with you? You will never hear Clifton say no. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter what the nationality is. I'm not going to say no. But if I don't feel like dancing, which we all do at some point, I'm going to leave the dance floor. That's just my 2 cents. You know what I mean? So I feel like we need to create an environment where people who look like me and women who look like Desiree and Alemana and the sign languager, people who look like us, feel comfortable and welcome to come in and participate and be a part of the culture.
And share their artistry, because I think their voice needs to be heard too. I mean, because it is a different perspective, and it is a different, sometimes it is a different look to what the dance looks like.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on the subject.
Thank you, Clifton. All right, let's do. I think maybe we have time for one.
Yeah, we got a couple more questions. I'm gonna address one quick question. Alemana, Desiree, Bianca from Alma Latina, Bianca from Island Touch, Bercy from Rodrigo and Bercy.
Delia.
Delia Madera. She be at all of our events.
Kimberly.
But she just said 5. She just said 5. The lady is so, we can keep it going. But
oh, was that the question?
She just said 5. I went 5. But yes, we've had Delia Madera, we've had Kimberly Rivera, and a lot of other sisters with brown skin at our events. I just wanted to show her love. Next question. Who we got? Bianca, let us know.
Natalie, I am wondering what each of you are currently doing, will do to center issues of safety and inclusion in the dance community for all Black dancers, including Black trans women.
All right, so let's start. Time out. Let's get this organized. Desi, you start. Then we'll go to Clifton. Then we'll go to you, Dejan, because I know you guys have schools, you have teams, you have different things going on. How do you address this particular issue in your sphere?
Take to make sure that these communities feel welcome and safe. I think, you know, again, checking myself. There's language that I've used in the past. And I always have to really like stay on top of myself because it is an ingrained thing that I've used in the past that is not inclusive. And I think that's one small way that actually is not small. One way that we can make everybody feel welcome, how they are, using pronouns that support the way that that particular person feels, and just awareness, I think.
Thank you. Clifton.
All right, so for me personally, like I believe, I'm a strong believer in constantly learning and being a student of life until I die, right? And I could tell you in the past, coming from a background that is extremely homophobic, I'm gonna tell you, I have 2 guys on my team that I've met. I don't know if they want me to mention their names, but I've met years ago who have totally helped me, you know what I mean, on a mental state to think differently, not be so narrow-minded, and open up my mind to other possibilities. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is that I take this approach in every single avenue of life. So as it pertains specifically to Black culture, and to Black lives, myself and my admin, Alina, shout you out. You're amazing. Without you, I don't know what I would do. She helps me so much. And what we're going to do actually this Sunday, live from my house in my backyard, we're doing a free dance hall workshop to promote another dance hall workshop where people can pay for, where all the proceeds will go to a local Black non-for-profit organization. So, I mean, I constantly try to do my little part. And even if you're doing a little bit, trust me, it goes a long way. Because that one person, that one mind that you can actually switch over to think a different way, remember that person is now connected to like 5 other people. And those 5 other people are connected to 5 other people. So it's going to create a domino effect that could be a domino effect of positivity. So, I mean, we're constantly trying to grow and reinvent ourselves to try to come up with different ways to support not only the Black community, but other communities of oppression. You know what I mean? So that's what we're doing here.
Bianca, can you put that question? Rudy, can you have Bianca? Yes. Dejan, obviously, we want to hear from you as well before you got to run out for your class. So please, how do you feel?
Look, I can last. Probably, let's see. I can last, so no worries, don't worry. I don't think we're gonna be on longer than my class needs to be. So it's gonna be at. So we'll last. But in terms of the trans and black trans community, I resonate with exactly what Clifton said as well. I came from a background where the only male influence in my life early on was one of my uncles, and he was like totally against anything like that. He was super Christian and super into that stuff. So he was totally against anything that had to do with LGBTQ. And as I grew and I became friends with people that were of trans, gay, Black, all of that, I realized that These are people just like us. If we continue to just put humanity first and forget about all of those biases and color and sexual orientation and political beliefs, I think that we will be very, very, very well off in terms of just equality, but also holding people accountable. And if you see something, say something. If you see something, you bring it to awareness. And then after you bring it to awareness, there's people that are aware, that are willing to be educated. And then from there, we can make our road to change. But without that awareness, you're not going to be able to say it. Why I say that is because I haven't specifically heard a lot about the trans community in the Latin dance scene. I've heard about the gay community a lot and their oppression and everything, but the trans community is something that I will also seek education on in order to find out how to help.
That's
Awesome.
what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go for it, Desiree. You got something?
No, I just was saying what they're saying, and to create safe spaces. Create safe spaces for everybody.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just to wrap it up is, or I mean, obviously, Rudy, you'll have something as well, but I think, because I'm also looking at the live comments that are coming on, I think the biggest thing is one of, at least mine and Rudy's biggest missions when we do We Talk Dance, and specifically this subject, I was the one that brought this up to him. I was like, we need to talk about this. This is a sensitive subject. We're clearly seeing this as a big problem in our scene. We need to talk about it. I want to make sure that everybody that's on here right now that's watching, this is an educational time for us as well. Again, none of us are up here saying we know everything. We are aware of everything. I will be the first to admit I am not as knowledgeable as I should be. I am not aware as I should be, but I'm using this opportunity in particular. And especially, I want to go back to just the one question that came up with Monique, because it does hit home. I should know way more women of color in our arts, in our scene than I do. And I'm ashamed for not knowing that, but I will do my homework and I will educate myself so I can make sure things change. And that, I think, is the biggest thing about having these conversations. It's about educating each other. It's understanding. It's getting perspective where everybody's coming from, because we don't all have the same walks of life. We don't all have the same experiences. So we're all going to see the world a little bit differently. But I think the biggest thing was just having this conversation for ourselves, I think, so we can get each other's understandings and perspective, but also for the people that follow us, because we have, each of us have a huge following. And those people look up to each and every one of you guys. And it's important that we speak on, you know, subjects that are at hand. Talk about it. I just needed to say that because I think that's important.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right, mi gente, my peoples. Two things. Number one, we want everybody. I'm about to play myself, but it's okay. It's on the. I'm gonna blame it on the brown liquor.
Oh God.
I want everybody to email me. Because we our ASL brother and sister gotta go here in like 2 minutes. But I want everybody. I'm putting my email address out there. Rudy@AllenTouchDance.com. I want you to email me your list of Black brothers and sisters who you feel are performers, teachers, instructors that have not been recognized in the scene. I will look at them and I will consider them for our events. That's all I could do. Yes, sir. Mr. Clifton, you got something to say?
Yes, real quick. I know you're about to close out and I don't want to go after your closing.
Go.
So real quick, I just want everyone on the panel and everyone who's listening right now, just remember that each and every one of us have a responsibility in our goings and comings throughout life. We are actually in real time writing history. We are writing history in real time. So you got to think about how impactful that is. And I think about those things. Honestly, maybe I'm just a nerd like that, but I think about those things. My actions, what I do today, will affect a number of people today and tomorrow and next week and next month, and it will be written. You understand? It'll be written. So you as an individual, you need to decide what side of history you want to be on. That's my 2 cents.
Amen, brother. So on behalf of Alemana, myself, Alan Touch, look, the reality is we need 100 years to discuss all the things that we tried to talk about today.
It's real.
We will definitely do this again. We will reach out to some more brothers and sisters, but we want to thank this Queen, Desiree, these 2 amazing kings, Clifton, Dejan, and shout out to Cadence and the Juan, King and Queen, who were interpreting out here for us. We are imperfect beings trying to make it.
Yeah.
We just want people to experience the Latin dancing. It's something that was said earlier that I don't know if a lot of people realize, but I think it's true. And Dejan and Clifton and Desi spoke to it, which is the reality is the Latin dance scene is one of those places where it's one of the safer places. It might not be perfect. It might not be the safest, but it's definitely one of those places where you can go regardless of what color, regardless of who you like having sex with, regardless of how you like to do your hair. You can go there and enjoy yourself and dance and be a part and experience Afro-Latin culture in a real and meaningful way. So we want to thank everyone for being a part of this. Stay on the lookout for the next episode. Please support all of the guests that we had today.
Yes.
They each have their own classes, their own pages. Follow them, give them money, buy shit from them. Buy black, please buy black. Alemana, let them know and send us on our way.
Thank you guys again. Thank you, Desi. Thank you, Clifton. Thank you, Dejan, for being part of it, for taking the chance. This is obviously one of the first conversations, and you guys had no idea what was going to happen. So I just, from Rudy and myself, I want to thank you guys for taking the chance and being willing to be a part of it. I'm going to let y'all go do your classes, do your work, keep doing you. And for everybody that was watching for these past 3 hours, we appreciate you. We love you. And this is not going to be the last conversation. I'll tell you that. So, Black Lives Matter. If you can't see that, educate yourself. Go on Google, educate yourself as to why Black Lives Matter. With that, we say goodbye, and Rudy, we talk dance.
Yes, ma'am. We love you guys. Bye.
Peace out.
Bye.